What is up, RotoGrinders? Good morning. It's the start of the People Show. It's the start of 3.5 hours nonstop NFL DFS conversation, taking you all the way up the lock, taking you all the way up the kickoff. 6 teams. 6 teams are on bye. It's just a 10-gamer on DK, an 11-gamer on FanDuel. If you're looking like, well, why can't I play this guy? Why can't I play? Well, either he's hurt or he's not playing. No Atlanta, no Buffalo, no Cincy, no Jacksonville, no Saints, no Jets. No Saints. I don't know how. I can't play Taysom. I don't know what to do. We lost Jameis on Thursday. What a magical game that was on Thursday night. The snow was spectacular. But the slate is the slate. Myself, TastefulTides, Tim, 3-entry max, single-entry max, single-entry specialist, as well as Bobby Gomes, former $1 million winner, former, like, one of the hottest guys in the showdown streets as well. Bobby's on fire. What's up, Bobby? How's life in your world? Everything okay?
Everything's good. Everything's good. Thinking about ways to troll you on the show. We'll see how it goes, you know.
Maybe the chat can help you out.
We were just talking pre-show. If I was the richest guy in the world, I'd probably just do things to troll Dean. That would make my day.
I don't think you have to be. I don't think you have to be that rich to troll Dean, though.
This is true.
You could do it anyway. You could do the budget version.
Yeah, I can do the budget version on the show. I can do the budget version on the show.
Yeah. Oh, it's not a troll, but Shannon is mentioning 4K Tommy DeVito Day. Yeah, we have 2 4K quarterbacks. Yeah, it's not. There's not a lot of players where I'm like, man, I really wish I could pay for so and so today. DK lighten the the salaries a little bit, but there's really nobody to pay up for. I'm curious. I'm still like wide open as far as my main focus on this slate, as far as my main lineups. I'm kind of bouncing some ideas back and forth, but I don't really love any. I like some, but I don't love any. I don't really love any. Tim, how about yourself? You doing okay? And you're kind of in my streets, right? We mostly focus on like the 3-entry max stuff, the single-entry stuff. Are you narrowed in? Like, this is what I want, or you're still kind of bouncing back and forth? Because that's where I'm at, and I'm hoping that this conversation will lead me in the right direction, because I have some ideas, but none of them feel amazing. And hopefully that's where everybody else is at today. Did you love anything today?
Not really. I'm definitely in agreement that I don't really love anything. I think there's some clear and obvious choices in cash games that people that you should be playing in cash, but I mean, it's not like I'm jumping for joy to play them, because I think that there's a lot of holes that you can poke in a lot of these quote unquote optimal plays. So yeah, it's kind of easy, like how you're supposed to build, but I don't think it's like amazing. It's not like, outside of, I mean, we'll talk about running back, but I mean, it's obvious. Like, I think there's some really, really good chalk. I think A-Chain is one of them at running back. I do like him quite a bit. I would like to get overweight him in GPPs as well. And he's an obvious cash game play. But outside of that, there are holes that you can poke in a lot of these quote unquote optimal plays.
We are expecting Malik Neighbors to play. I believe he's still currently questionable. Mike Evans expected to play. The tricky one there is there's been kind of a mixed message as far as how much he will play. He said himself, a couple days ago, that like he probably could have played last week. And then his coach basically came out, I think it was Zoc, came out and was like, well, we'll see. We'll see how much he can play. And like, theoretically, no Godwin and, 7K Evans on DK versus the Giants looks amazing, but I'm a little bit concerned. But I'm curious to get you guys' take on that. And I don't know if we're getting any news on that. And you never really know how it's going to go as far as coach speak, but if we can get full-fledged, Mike Evans at 7K, it looks amazing. Jonathan Brooks expected to make his debut today. Adam Thielen should also be back as well. I don't think anybody really cares about that. The Thielen thing especially. But just of note, maybe the Thielen family. I suppose they care. Bobby, do you love anything today? Because I would love to hear your thoughts on this, because I think some of the chalk stuff we'll talk about. I think there's some stuff that might be bad chalk for tournaments. Good for cash, but bad for tournaments.
Yeah, when you were basically breaking down the slate, it was a good time for TJ to cue the blender. Play whoever you want. But for me, I'm kind of flipping the build. I see a lot of ownership going to these running backs, and I'm very bullish on some of these high-end wide receivers because I think, like you said, you can poke holes in these in the chalk running backs and some of the chalk on the slate in general. So I don't know. I'm gravitating towards guys like CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Nico Collins. I'll be trying to spend up to get those receivers and possibly McCaffrey. I don't know if we have the Trent Williams news because I woke up
Unlikely.
minutes ago. He's unlikely.
Yeah, Schefter tweeted last night. So yeah, it's unless something's changed in the middle of the night that I missed. But last night, maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was, he tweets late. But yeah, I think they said not optimistic if you want to get all technical. But I'm assuming he's not playing.
So that hurt. I wanted to get to McCaffrey, but that definitely hurts McCaffrey, and I think that hurts Brandon Allen. I was fine with playing Brandon Allen as well, but it was all hinging on the Trent Williams stuff. So going to remove that from my pool, at least Brandon Allen. McCaffrey I'll probably leave in, but I was pretty heavy on McCaffrey, and now I'm definitely going to pull that back a little. But yeah, I like paying up at wide receiver. Interested in this Tampa Bay. Not Tampa Bay. Miami and New England game. I think that's one of the games that I'm very interested in. And then Seattle and Arizona.
Yeah, I got to chime in because Brit just posted it and I saw the same thing. It's the opposite of what you said, Dean. The 49ers are optimistic that offensive tackle Trent Williams, who is listed as questionable for Sunday's game due to an ankle injury, will be able to play versus the Packers.
Look at Dean with the misinformation at 9:30 a.m.
In pre-game warm-ups to know if he will be able to go and protect quarterback Brandon Allen.
Hold on a second. Now, I must have misread it in the middle of the night. I know I saw the tweet. Yeah, I see Schefter at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to sit here and say he deleted and made a new one. I don't know, but I thought for sure that I read not optimistic, but my bad. That was not intentional. You do the show for 12 years or so. I'm allowed. Okay, can I get a mulligan on this one? My apologies for putting out the misinformation. But I just, yes, you can ban me, TJ. By the way, TJ, if you had I guess you don't have access to the soundboard, but you talked about the blender, play whatever you want. But we live in the world of a salary cap, and you want to play every expensive receiver, Bobby. How are you doing that?
I have my ways, Dean, and we'll talk about it as we get into the show. I have my ways.
For what it's worth, I'm doing the same thing. I have a lineup with St. Brown, Nico Collins, and Justin Jefferson all in the same lineup.
Great minds think alike, TJ. Great minds think alike.
TJ, I don't want to bring it up again, but he was scorned. He was a 1v1 off of the Million Maker last week, winning it clean, winning it by 10 points or so. I think it was Amon-Ra in place of CMC, which seems like a pretty fair swap. Your ways are almost definitely Luke Shoemaker. I'm assuming that's one of the ways. 2.5K tight end for Dallas. Second round pick, some draft equity, and Ferguson is out as well. So we have another. The 2.5K tight end worked out so well last time with the Rams. Well, we're going back to it. I suppose. Yeah, Tim, you want to give a little rundown as far as cash? The people like to hear a little cash conversation. Give us a little cash rundown before we delve into the slate as a whole.
Yeah, so I'm hearing a lot of talk about Anthony Richardson in cash. I really don't have that much problem with that. He's 5,600. Going up against Detroit, who is a really, really strong defense, and it's not a really good, quote unquote, on paper matchup for Richardson, but he does have a really nice rushing floor, and he's relatively cheap. So I think Richardson is a pretty strong cash game play. I wouldn't mind Bo Nix either at 6,300. I think he would be somewhat interesting in cash games as well. Same thing with Kyler at 62. I don't really think that we should be paying up for Jaden Daniels in cash games, at least. Absolutely, in single entry or GPPs, I think that's fine. So it's going to be Richardson, Nix, or Murray for me, and then I think I guess some builds are leading you to Tommy DeVito at the Stone Min at 4K in a good spot, I guess. And he did, I think he averaged like 30 rushing yards in his 5 starts last year. So, I mean, he can rush the ball as well. I guess he's viable. But I mean, unless you're doing the TJ and Bobby build with like the super expensive wide receivers, I think it's just so much easier to just pay for Anthony Richardson. So you can find the 1,600 so easily on this slate. So I wouldn't fault anybody if they wanted to play DeVito. I'm probably not going to. It's probably going to be Richardson, Nix, or Murray for me at QB.
It seems really unnecessary for cash.
That's what I think too. That's what I think as
kind of,
well. Yeah. I don't really think it's necessary to play DeVito. Running back is extremely strong today. In multiple different price ranges. I had mentioned A-Chain at 7,500. I should have also mentioned Kareem Hunt at 5,700. No Isaiah Pacheco this week, so he should have one more week in an absolutely outstanding matchup. So I think those two are definitely cash game locks. Then you could also go. You could either go up to McCaffrey. You could go to the mid range with James Conner, or you could go double cheap running backs with Ryan Robinson for Washington, who's in an amazing matchup as well. So I think those are running backs that you can consider. I think that in GPPs, there's a lot of different ways you can go about running backs, but I mean, we can talk about that a little bit later. Wide receiver is kind of interesting. Obviously, I think you should be playing Cortland Sutton. I think that's the clear and obvious, standout optimal play, 5,800. He's shown some really nice chemistry with Bo Nix the last month or so. So I think Sutton is clearly going to be one of your cash game wide receivers. I wanted to play Juwan Jennings, but now that Purdy's out, I think I'm not going to play him in cash. I don't know. I feel very, very uneasy with Purdy being out. So I think Jacoby Myers is an interesting mid-range play. If you want to pay up, I think I'd rather pay up for Monra over Justin Jefferson. I just find the 200 for Justin Jefferson. I think CeeDee Lamb is an interesting cash game play as well at 7,300. But really, this mid-range is pretty loaded today. I don't think it's absolutely necessary for you to go up to Amon-Ra in cash. I think you could just live in this mid-range. Tight end, a few different ways that you can go.
All the way up or all the way down?
All the way up or all the way down, right? It's like Brock Bowers, Travis Kelce, or Schoonmaker, really. I think those are your three cash game options at tight end. So, I mean, tight end, I'm probably just going to play Schoonmaker because I just tend to punt tight end, but I wouldn't fault anybody if they wanted to go Bowers or Kelce.
Ross weather report. I'll go ahead and drop this in chat for the people as well. It's yellow in Seattle. Always raining in Seattle to some degree. Nothing to be freaked out about. Rain is not as big a deal as wind. I'll just go ahead and read this on behalf of Roth. Remember, this is a 4 o'clock game, 4 o'clock East Coast, 1 o'clock local time. So this game doesn't kick off for like 7 hours or so. So this stuff can't change. I expect rain potentially all game. It's never particularly heavy, but I do think we'll see a fairly consistent light to moderate rain that creates some slick conditions. Bump down to the passing attack as a few easy receptions could turn into drops with a wet ball. Worth noting, winds are not an issue. Also green-yellow in New York for the Giants in Tampa. Green-yellow in Green Bay. Let's see. How cold is it? I guess it's probably not a snow thing. Let's see. I think rain chances are higher than that, 10%. Let's see. High-res models are bringing in a batch of showers late game. Yeah, and again, I imagine he will have a chance to update this as we close in on lock, but we're still hours away. All right, chat. What's up, chat? Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that. Turn on those notifications. Do all the things. Hit all the buttons. Bobby, you want to give your overview before we kind of dive in and go position by position? We'll talk quarterbacks in a second, but anything else you want to mention? Something you have your eye on? Is there one piece of news outside of Trent Williams that somebody might be trying to spread misinformation in the show? I'm not going to name names. Maybe it was me accidentally. But is there anything else that I would love to get a report on Mike Evans, but like I just don't know, right? I don't know if we're gonna get full Mike Evans today, and I'm really enthused the prospects, but I also don't want him just to. It's the hamstrings kind of linger. I'm sure a lot of us watched him when he almost scored that touchdown on Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football. You just knew it was going to be out for a while. It's just painful. TJ's got something. What do you got, TJ and Evans?
I'm not sure if you mentioned it earlier, but just to be safe, since how we started the show, Rappaport, who isn't always hit, he does miss sometimes, reported 7 hours ago that Mike Evans won't have any restrictions.
Oh, no. There it is. That's the kiss of death. Okay. All right. Interesting. Yeah. I love it. If he has no restrictions, I mean, of course, he can get a re-injury. You never really know. But Bobby, is that the one? Is there something else that we're monitoring and that we care about as far as potential news that may drop, if not now?
You should monitor if I play Mike Evans, because if I play Mike Evans, he'll probably pull his hamstring in the second quarter. So
I love that we think I'm not singling you out, but like we feel like we have this power. It's like, oh yeah, of course that happened because I played him, because that you have that kind of influence, right? And again, I'm not picking on you. We all do this.
Somebody in chat said earlier,
I haven't been able to get him right for literally, I don't know, 5 years now. So.
Somebody in chat earlier said, "Oh, Brian Robinson looks like they're in a great spot, but I'm playing against Jaden Daniels in fantasy, so it's obviously going to be Daniels having the big day."
Of course, like because that's what dictates it. The one fantasy match, yeah, by all means. And I'm sure I'm guilty of it too. I'm sure I've done that as well. So I'm not better than that kind of analysis.
You have been doing it for 10 years, right? I was going to say 22 years, but
I mean, I've been playing the fantasy. I don't even want to think about how long that's been going on. But yeah, we've been doing this a long time, Bobby, for sure. Is there anything else that's worth noting? Anything we're monitoring here before we want to talk, quarterbacks?
Nothing for me. We can just hop right into QBs, I guess.
Tim, you want to open up quarterbacks for us for tournaments?
For tournaments, sure. Yeah. So looking at projected ownership, it looks like Richardson's going to be the highest owned quarterback in GPPs. I'm fine if you want to go that route. It's going to be an interesting decision whether you want to play him naked or pair him with somebody. Right now, I think that it's probably going to be more popular just to play him naked, which means I think that you might want to consider pairing him with one of his pass catchers.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a scary proposition because I don't really know which one. I guess it would be Downs over Pittman, but really I don't feel really, really confident.
It might be none.
It
plays out.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I'm surprised at how low Kyler Murray is. I really like him in GPPs. If he's really going to be hovering around that 5% project, when we flip over the cards, he's going to be really 5%. That would be amazing. So I really like Kyler in GPPs. I really like that game in general in GPPs. So I think that he's a really great play. Jaden Daniels, I mean, he got hurt and he kind of stopped rushing the ball, but assuming that he's kind of more healthy now, this is just an outstanding matchup. So 7K for him. I think he can really, really crush that price tag. So I really like him in GPPs. Bo Nix is another guy that I thought would be a little bit more popular, especially given how popular Sutton's going to be. I thought Nix would be a little bit higher, but again, if he's going to be around that 5% range, I really like Bo Nix quite a bit as well. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be one of these guys, in the slow sixes like Nix or Murray for me, I think. And then if I do build a team that I have the money, it would be Daniels for me. I don't really know what I'm going to do with Richardson. I'm going to play him in cash games, but I don't really know what I'm going to do with him in my primary single entry team because I don't know. I mean, Detroit should just absolutely crush this team. So I mean, how many, Richardson's really going to have to hit his, rushing, ceiling, I think, to pay off a GPP winning score.
He can run for 40 yards and run a touchdown in, and that's 10 points right there, right? So,
right. Yeah.
But I don't, like you said, he might be 12 for 27 for 115 yards passing, possibly. I did run some sim stuff. I'm sure you did as well. The most popular quarterback I'm getting is Geno Smith. I was thinking about like how much more popular this game will be. I think it's going to be popular as is, but even more popular. This game was in Arizona in the Dome, right, as opposed to Seattle. I know whatever. I'm not afraid of the rain. I just like the Dome, right? But Geno is the most popular quarterback. He has his, he's got a healthy unit of a Metcalf and JSN and Lockett's there. Not that you necessarily need him, but he's out there running routes, I suppose. Daniel's second most popular guy, Drake May, which I think is kind of sort of somewhat interesting. Minshew, I don't really get. I don't really trust Minshew, but that's fine. And there's Richardson and there's Bo, Mahomes, Caleb, everybody else like 2-3% or so. Jump in here, Bobby. Are we making any sort of bold decisions? Do you have your quarterback pool officially established, or is it still in flux?
I have my quarterback pool established currently. Let me pull it up here. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah, I know we're on quarterback, so I should probably
anticipate
it. Yeah, wait a sec. Now I'm behind my laptop, which I need to. So I moved it over to the front screen. Okay.
You're good. No worries.
1 sec. Okay. So Anthony Richardson chalk, I think I'm going to be underrun. I just think it makes sense currently for me to do that.
TJ's showing off some of the sim stuff on the screen. If you guys are just listening, feel free to pull the screen up, and TJ's showing off some of the bells and the whistles that we have here with premium.
Yeah.
I'm buying you some time, Bobby.
Geno and Jaden, I'm going to be under on, but they'll obviously be in my pool. Same thing with Kyler. Tua and Drake May, I'm going to be over on. I like this game a lot. I think it's a very good game to attack. I'm going to be over on Tommy DeVito just because it's super condensed. Like, he's only throwing to neighbors. He has the rushing equity. He's 4K. Like, it just makes sense to get to some DeVito. Patrick Mahomes, I like a good bit. The issue is, what are the run backs and are they going to be pushed? I do think Kareem Hunt is likely good chalk, so I'm not really trying to leverage.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
You don't know?
I'm not sure. Like, you can tell you the story that like they're going to run him into the ground because next week they have their running back coming back. So like whatever, they borrowed him for 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and just let's give him 25 touches. And they probably. I mean, I guess they want a backup RB just in case. With Pacheco coming back, they still want a guy, but and everybody runs on Carolina, so I guess he's fine. Yeah, I mean, he's yeah. Go ahead.
For my script, because it's mine and not yours, Dean, I'm going to be playing some Kareem Hunt.
Yeah,
I think he's a fantastic play at 5'7", and I'm trying to spend. I need to save as much money as possible because I'm trying to spend up at wide receiver. So yeah. I like Hunt. I don't mind Mahomes. I like Mahomes with Kelsey, with Worthy. Kelsey's the one I have question marks with because Kelsey's going to be super high owned. There's Noah Gray there.
2 touchdowns last week.
Tight end seems pretty strong. Yeah, but so for me, like I like Mahomes stacks. I just haven't really figured out how I'm currently going to play them. CJ Stroud to Nico Collins, I like a good bit. You can throw Tank Dell and Schultz in there, be over on him. Sam Darnold to Justin Jefferson or TJ Hawkinson, I think is fine. I'm going to be playing some Gardner Minshew. Most people won't. They're going to play Bo Nix or try to play Bo Nix. I just think Minshew's like the lower owned way to, even though Bo Nix is going to be relatively low on, but I imagine higher stakes stuff, people will still probably play some Bo Nix because of the rushing.
Doubles or singles like Bowers, Myers?
I think you can play both, but I prefer Bowers.
Yeah.
Just because I would imagine Myers gets Surtain. And then Cooper Rush, I'm going to play. I know it's disgusting, but I really like CeeDee Lamb.
And the tight end. You can do doubles there.
Shoemaker is 2,500. So yeah, I think Cooper Rush is fine. The main game I'm really keying in on is May, and this is the Dolphins game, New England and Miami. Trying to get to May, trying to get to Tua. The one question mark I have is Kyler, because I think Kyler, if you stack him with McBride, is a very leverageable play in tournaments because McBride is leverage off both Kelsey and Connor, and Kyler's also leverage off of Connor if he runs it into the goal line. Now, the rain kind of throws a wrench in it because maybe they try to pound it a little more. But I like that game to run it. I like that game as a game stack. I think that kind of that's something that I'm going to try to get to a little bit.
We currently have Kelsey at 20, Hunter Henry at 18, McBride at 10, and Bowers at 10. So basically, McBride and Bowers, half the ownership is Kelsey. And then if that holds, I like the idea of the pivot. And I like McBride more than I like Bowers. So I'm with you on that. Finally, I think we're going to finally see. I don't want to touchdown for McBride. He's been in the end zone a couple times, but one recovering a fumble and one running it in and like a reverse on the 1 yard line. But, it feels like one of these days he's actually going to catch the ball in the end zone. That New England game. So how it's the Tua thing. I hear people talk about Tua and it kind of bleeds into the Hill, and they're just not throwing the ball deep to Hill right now. Like his air yards wasn't spectacular last week. I know he's dealing with that wrist, and I keep saying, and I know it's kind of this running joke where I'm like, everybody's like, he's too cheap, he's too cheap, he's too cheap. Well, you know what? He's been appropriately priced or too expensive for the last 10 weeks because you've not wanted Hill since week 1. Now we've seen it.
You're not giving the context though, right? Like they haven't had
the results
for 6 of those weeks.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
I know Tua's been back for 3 weeks, so your argument works for that. But
the rest of them, yeah.
I just seen a video on Twitter because I'm on Twitter. I know you're a Blue Sky guy. Maybe this video didn't make it to Blue Sky, but I seen Christian Gonzalez getting off the Patriots bus and he's limping or walking very slow was the tagline. So for me,
who was Bobby?
On my guy Tyreek,
the corner Gonzalez. He's also not. I'm not here evaluating corners, but my understanding is he's overrated. He's not that good. And didn't the Rams burn him last week?
Same way. So if you talk to people in New England, they'll tell you that this guy is the next Darrelle Revis. If you go on any sports radio or whatever, the fans are gushing over him.
I love that you still fire up the local sports radio. I enjoy that more than I should.
And Puka, yeah. And
did you ever call in? Bobby?
Week. What'd you say?
You ever call into the local sports radio?
I've called in once. It was about the Celtics. I was just really frustrated about parking, and I don't know.
You call in and complain about parking? I live right. That's amazing. Did the host care? They didn't care, right?
No, it wasn't that. I was just bashing them. I don't know.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
And they went on to win the championship. So, yeah.
Did they know who you were? Did they know you're Bobby Gomes?
No, they don't know me, Dean. I'm a nobody. I'm not a Blue Sky guy. I'm on Twitter. I'm just a regular troll on Twitter.
I saw somebody in the chat that threw out some quarterbacks. I know we're talking kind of broad and kind of bouncing back and forth, but Baker Mayfield, and he's been good this year. And if he's getting Evans back, it's very, very clear. Otten's kind of expensive now. I'm not saying you can't play him, but I'd assume he'd fall back a little bit with Evans back. Is he somebody in your pool? I don't think you mentioned him, Bobby. Baker Mayfield or no?
He's in my pool, but I hope I don't get him.
Okay.
I think TJ called it on our show yesterday. The play in that game is like Bucky on the Tampa Bay side.
That's a really good call.
Yeah.
I like him too. I wish he was a little bit cheaper. It appears that the third running back is, I don't want to say gone, but unlikely to be involved to much degree. So it's no longer a 3-headed monster, probably in Tampa. Yeah, and White's lurking as well, obviously, but I think Bucky's a pretty good play. Maybe you want to run back if you're playing some. What's your boy's name? Tommy Cutlets, Tommy DeVito. Do you like him distinctly more than Allen, the other 4K quarterback?
I think they're both fine if Trent Williams has a clean bill of health. I think they're both fine. Trent Williams splits in Shanahan offenses. It benefits. Shanahan's obviously good for the QB, but it also you want Trent Williams there, especially with Brandon Allen. So yeah, I like them both. I'm going to be playing both 4K QBs because, like I said, I want to pay up for these receivers. I think they're all really good and they're low owned for some reason. So
If you play Allen, are you pairing him with Jennings or something like that? Somebody on San Fran?
There's a thing about Brandon Allen is he has little hands, right?
That's the bit with him. Yeah,
that's the bit with Brandon Allen. It's like the Davis Maddox chop picture or whatever that used to be in the
look at
yeah,
DJ.
so I just think it would be easier for him to get it out to McCaffrey.
Not accurate, I don't think.
It would be easier for him with those hands to get it out to McCaffrey, I would imagine. So, like,
you're saying he doesn't have the hand strength or the hand ability to throw it like 15 yards down the field?
Two hands, Dean. You have to throw it two hands when you have really small hands like that.
Bobby with the little hands in the dirt take.
Yeah, that's little hands in the dirt. So, yeah, I think just McCaffrey is fine. He's going to pepper McCaffrey.
Yeah, the other argument, for San Fran is like, how his weapons are awesome, right? The weapons are great. And we've seen it before. Like some people think like Brock Purdy is basically, just a product of the system, right? Some would argue that. And
some would argue you're a product of the system, Dean.
What system? What system am I a product of? CJ, remember what was it? Beathard? Like he's another one that like had some success there in San Fran. I'm missing somebody else too. Wasn't there like a third guy that just nobody ever heard of that did all right there for San Fran just because, coach knows what he's doing? Do you have a distinct answer on that, Tim? Allen versus DeVito? Mullins. Thank you, chat.
I think it really depends. I don't know. I think I prefer DeVito, but it's super, super close. I don't really. The thing about Allen is that like we actually have good stacking partners with him, whereas with DeVito we don't. We really need DeVito to rush.
You got one
ball.
clear guy though on DeVito. You have one clear pair.
It's condensed on.
You don't have to pick.
That's true. That is true. I don't know. I have a little bit more faith, I think, in the 49ers to move the ball than I do the Giants. But I do agree though that there's a clear and obvious choice with DeVito's stacking partner.
But maybe you can pair. You're talking about Allen in his little hands. He doesn't have the ability to throw a ball down the field, which is preposterous. But I'm just going to work with it. Maybe pair him with CMC. Just a lot of dump offs.
That's what I said, Dean. That's what I said. CMC. Yeah. That's what I'm pairing him with.
The chat's on fire right now.
What are they saying? I never pull up chat because I get too distracted because they make a lot of funny comments and.
Well, you could troll, but like you don't like when you get trolled. So like
that isn't true at all. That isn't true at all. I've never blocked one person on Twitter.
I was gonna say Bobby enjoys it.
That isn't true at all. I'll take you.
But it rattles you. It rattles you.
You block people. You went over to Blue Sky because you're getting trolled so much.
I'm blocking everybody. Yeah, I'm like the Kevin Mutombo.
Yeah.
So Bree says, "Dean is a system host," which I thought was a funny comment. I don't know what that means, but it made me laugh.
What was it? What was the comment?
Dean is a system host. Like we're talking about system quarterbacks.
System host. Yeah, you're a system host.
I'll see somebody who like will comment about a show that I like or a food that I like, and I'll block them. If somebody doesn't like the same food as I like, I don't want that on my timeline. Gone.
See, this is joking.
We have to be open-minded, TJ. We have to be open-minded. You have to hear everyone's thought process.
Pineapples on pizza. Get out.
Not on my timeline. I can seek it out if I need it. I don't need it in my own.
I'm definitely muted on TJ's.
I want to look at things I like.
TJ, can you confirm or deny that you have Bobby muted on your timeline?
I do not. I do not have Bobby muted.
Not yet.
I wouldn't mute you either, TJ. I wouldn't mute you either. Dean wouldn't be my friend on Twitter for like years. Big follower snob. TJ.
I didn't know you existed.
Oh my god. We had a ton of mutual friends. You wouldn't be my friend.
I wasn't aware of your existence. I'm sorry.
Oh my god. I don't believe it.
I have my betting system is really tough. It's hard to get through to the final stage. All right. Other quarterbacks that are, but we should mention, by the way, FanDuel gives you another game. FanDuel gives you Philadelphia and the Rams. No Devontae Smith. AJ Brown looks great in that game. Barkley is $10K. FanDuel ain't messing around with some of their prices. But, just saying, you can play some Jalen Hurts if you want to play some Jalen Hurts. It's tough. He's like 9-3 on FanDuel. but just kind of throwing it out there. And we talk a lot of DK. And if you have any questions on FanDuel, make them FanDuel specific. But certainly does change the slate a little bit. Give you some more chances than somebody to spend up on. By all means, Hurts is a big spend.
And don't forget about AJ Brown on FanDuel also.
Yes, yeah, I think he's 8.5 over there without Smith. So that's a pretty good price. And probably, are you playing FanDuel cash today, Tim? I feel like he's a cash player.
I'm not playing cash. I'm just playing some single entry stuff.
Let me see where we have him in.
I got a timely season-long question from my buddy. Earlier, because usually he sends like 5 minutes before log and I just don't answer. But he asked about Goddard. Is Goddard in play? Who would you prefer, Goddard or Henry?
Is it full Henry? PPR?
I think it's full PPR, yeah.
I would go Goddard.
Okay.
Goddard at least gives you false hope, like you have like Sunday night. Like, if you're behind, you have all day where you can catch up. So that's a tiebreaker, right? Yeah. It's the late game. It's like, well, you never know. I got Goddard. I'm down by 30. Miracles do happen. Delay the inevitable. But yeah, I guess I don't have a hard stand on that. I'll take Goddard. He's rightfully asking you because who knows? It's close. Other quarterbacks of notes. I'm trying to see if the chat has anybody for us. They're talking about Poutine now for some reason. I assume
I had Poutine yesterday for lunch. It was fantastic.
Really?
Do you have with the curds?
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
Heck yeah.
Homemade, or you got it's like a poutine shop in the Maine?
No. I got it at a restaurant.
Oh. In Maine, they have poutine.
Maine's known for its poutine.
We're right next to Canada.
Yeah, but it's a big state.
Yeah.
Technically, you're not next to Canada. You're like more near New Hampshire.
I'm right in the middle.
Okay.
And your review?
Yeah.
Any regrets?
No, it was fantastic.
There you go. I thought, isn't poutine like most pronounced like, in like Montreal? Isn't that where it's like supposedly the best?
I don't think I've ever had it, to be honest.
Anywhere
I was in Toronto.
Anywhere
is it like grits? Is it like grits?
It's French fries, gravy, and cheese curds.
It's very healthy, Bobby.
Mm-hmm. Healthiest.
When you say gravy, just to be clear, your gravy is different. It's not like brown gravy. It's white gravy.
No, it's brown gravy. It's
brown
gravy.
It sounds delicious.
It is delicious.
It's just regular gravy.
Oh, all right.
This is the type of hard-hitting analysis you get on this show.
Bobby, I got a buddy of mine, an Italian guy, who's he called spaghetti sauce gravy. Is that something that people do?
I call it gravy, yeah. But
yeah,
sauce gravy, like I think it's. People like overdo it. Like it's whatever is on your mind whatever thought comes into your mind and the word comes out,
Yeah, but it's gravy. It's like 4 different things. It's like it's universal. You got to know exactly what we're talking about. But I guess it's versatile.
For you, Dean. But if you're like in an Italian family and you have Sunday dinner every week, it's gravy.
That's amazing. You have Sunday dinner every single week. I'm jealous of that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's a thing.
I don't know if we're doing it this week. I might go after this, and I don't get to go out a lot anymore. So my kids went up to their cousins. I might just go out and have a few beers with the guys.
There you go. You get to sneak out a little bit.
You at a bar.
Could you just like hang out, or are you sweating your team the entire time and you're annoying like
I can't hang out till my Mike Evans exposure at the bar. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any other quarterbacks that we want to mention that are of notes? I'm trying to see if anybody else throwing other quarterbacks out in the chat. I have
Sam Darnold.
You can sell me on Darnold.
Well, he's tied to Justin Jefferson, so I think that works for me. And also he has Hawkinson. There's Aaron Jones. There is Addison. Like, there's weapons there. The other side is condensed too. Odunze, Keenan, Moore. I guess it's not that condensed, but Caleb stinks, which would be the one thing. Can they push back? I don't know, but I like Odunze a little bit as a run back too. So
I kind of do too. I think he's one of the better cheap receivers today.
What about Goff, Bobby? You're getting Denny Goff?
So last week, Dean told me to make a rule to play all Detroit Lions, and I didn't. It's literally haunted me all week. And
I tried, Bobby.
This week I'm in the same situation where I don't think I'm getting too much Detroit. I probably should be. Like, they threw a touchdown on 4th and 6, up 50 points. So
no mercy.
No mercy, yeah.
I actually have one more question for Bobby as well, because I'm curious. Who's your favorite stacking partner with Jake May? Is it Henry? Is it Douglas? Is it Butte?
So not to toot my own horn or anything, but last week I gave a call on the tournament take show that I said the Bills were going to win the game versus the Chiefs. And this week, my call
they were favored, by the way. Just so you picked a favorite, just so you know. The Bills were favored by 2 points. But congratulations. Good call.
That's fine. That was my call. This week, I'm going to say
a favorite's going to win this week.
Hunter Henry scores a touchdown. That's my call. So I like Henry as my favorite pick.
There. I like the Henry call as well. He's going to be popular, though. It's not a sneaky call, right? But I like it. It just
I take the easy. I take the square stuff, Dean. I take the easy stuff. You know?
Well, pairing with May is a way to be different. And like I think May is good. I think May is good.
I'm worried it's not going to be, though, because sharp people are on May in this Dolphins game. I'm not saying I'm sharp, but I'm just doing what all the other sharp people are doing, and I think that they're all gravitating towards this game.
Where do we have him? You're saying the ownership is probably a little low on May?
I think so.
We currently have him at 3-4%. Yeah, it might be a little low. But he's not going to get beyond like 7, I don't think.
No,
we have Richardson at 16%, which might be bad chalk. I don't like using the word chalk for a 16% player, but like it's one position. It's weird how we use that word. You're telling me like 17 people out of 20 aren't playing this guy, and this person's chalk. Yeah. Yeah. Have we figured it out, Tim? Who our single entry quarterback is, or are we still kind of bouncing back and forth?
I'm still bouncing back and forth. I'm actually kind of leaning Kyler, just because that's one of my favorite games. Like, in terms of like tempo and pace and stuff like that.
Kyler and McBride?
It's possible. Yeah.
That has to be the best leverage stack on the slate, like, I think.
So are people playing, is Connor going to be crazy popular? I'm seeing like 20%. The other receivers aren't going to be very popular, like Maserati, Marvin, Wilson, Dortch. People aren't playing those guys. I was thinking of just playing the running backs at each other, Walker and Connor. Just kind of a way to get away from
Walker and Connor.
Say it again.
Flipping Walker and Connor, like you're playing Kyler with Walker.
Oh no! Well, I was just thinking like probably a different quarterback, and I not that I'm besmirching Murray. I'm fine. I'm open to Murray. I'm open to Smith, but I was just thinking like in that game specifically, just run the two running backs at each other, and I think that's a way to get away from the running back stuff, which we'll talk about. I know Connor's going to be one of the more popular guys, but Robinson, man. I know they're a big time home favorite, so we can kind of pivot to running back. We can open that up. But Brian Robinson doesn't catch the ball.
That isn't true. That isn't true. He catches the ball. He catches the ball fine.
Hold on.
He has big hands, Dean. I'm like Brandon Allen.
He has 2 receptions in the last month. 2 targets in the last month. I shouldn't say month. Last 4 games because he missed a gap. His biggest game this year as far as targets was week 1 where he had 4 targets. They don't really throw on the ball. And they also don't run him into the ground, right? Like 16 carries, 16, 15. He did have 21 carries against Arizona. I don't remember was that the week that Eckler didn't play? I don't recall, but generally speaking, they keep him under 20 touches and he doesn't really catch the ball. And I know he's a monster favorite versus Dallas, and people want to say that this is like the same thing as we saw with Detroit last week. Just here's another 40 spot and just take Washington, play all the Washington stuff, maybe. Not the same thing, but, similar, I guess. But I'm just trying to find ways to get away from what will be a popular play in tournaments, Bobby. But it sounds like you're in on Robinson. And again, I understand why.
I'm in, but I'm under. I didn't know I thought Robinson, I don't know. I got to stop relying on the eye test, Dean. You got me. Sorry for spreading the misinformation.
It's 1-1.
It's 1-1. I'm going to be under. Like I said, I think in that range, Kareem Hunt's my favorite. I like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I think Cooper Rush can play decent today for what it's worth. And if he does, and it's a tighter spread, like you said, maybe you lose some Robinson. That's why I'd rather just play Hunt for the 100 more. I know he's going to be chalky, but be overweight on Hunt versus Carolina because Carolina is not beating the Chiefs today.
Probably not. They are getting Adam Thielen back this week, though. So do you want to rescind that comment, or you stand by it?
I stand by it.
Okay. I don't know if that changes things or not. The NFL debut of Jonathan Brooks also expected. I did bet his over, by the way, rushing yards. It was like 14.5 or 15.5. And I saw a note. Now I'm afraid to, because maybe I read it wrong, but I thought it said like no pitch count for him. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be unleashed, but you know.
Which probably means the note that you saw was pitch count expected for Jonathan Brooks.
Are you serious?
No, I'm saying that's probably what it was. If you saw that he doesn't have one, it's probably the opposite.
I thought you busted me. I thought I was sleepy when I was reading this. I was reading this.
This is what I'm thinking. Like, you're 3. Why are you up you stay up way too late for a guy your age? Not saying you're an old guy.
For a guy my age.
But aren't you tired? Like, do you ever get tired?
Sure, yeah. I mean, yeah.
You play video games like Call of Duty at 3 a.m.?
A little bit. I don't play Call of Duty. I've been playing that. Oh God! And this is the game. This game was popular a couple of years ago. Why can't I think of the name of it? TJ will probably jump in and tell me.
Apex?
It's like cars but soccer. Everybody knows the name of it. What is the name of this game?
Rocket League.
Rocket League.
Thank you. Yeah, Rocket League.
Tim knows Rocket League.
Look at Tim out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Tim likes to.
Do you want to be Rocket
fun?
League friends, Tim? We can play together.
Not with you.
That's unfortunate. You answered way too quickly. You should have thought about it. You don't know how good I am.
Xbox Live, and you get a DM from Dean at like 3 a.m. Want to play Rocket League?
There used to be Rocket League DFS. That's why I know.
Yeah,
I think
Tim was in the
Stevie's big
LOL
into it.
streets for a while, weren't you, Tim?
Tim was doing
No,
LOL
it's
projections.
No, Counter Strike, guys. I'm not good enough for LOL.
Cheese crushed the LOL stuff or one of those. Cheese is in all the random streets. Hockey streets. Is Cheese still lurking in the hockey streets, Tim? I'm sure you guys crossed paths this year?
He's been there quite a bit. Yeah.
That feels like his type of game, to be honest. Hockey and correlates with baseball, I guess. Well, similar game type.
Cheese was a goalie back in the day. I don't know if you guys know this. I'm not making that up. He did play a little bit of hockey. All right. Let's talk some running backs. Let's talk running backs. Most popular running backs we're seeing here on the board. I'm giving a refresh to ownership. We should be getting a new batch. This is, ownership right now is the middle of the night. Nothing's really changed, but last we had is 1-2 o'clock in the morning or so, around the time when I was reading stuff about Trent Williams incorrectly. But we have Kareem Hunt. This is DK specific, 32%. I guess they bumped this price down in anticipation of Pacheco coming back. 5'7", takes some big hits, and the role is just the same, and the matchup obviously spectacular. Achane, he's really claimed that job there for Miami at 25%, Robinson 25%, Walker at 20, Connor at 20, those two running backs in that Arizona-Seattle game. Mixon, who's been the best running back this season, which defies all lot. He's close to 30, right? And also he just changed teams. That's not supposed to be allowed, but he's been spectacular. Tennessee, good defense, but good spot as well, being a big home favorite. CMC down to 18%, so don't take any hits with the offense. Probably, at least not likely to be as smooth without Purdy. Tim, your thoughts as far as the upper tier running backs? Anybody that's most vulnerable to not making your tournament lineups? Anybody you're locking in your tournament lineups as far as the big? Actually, I shouldn't say big spends. The most popular running backs.
You want the most popular guys that I'm going to be playing? Well, in cash games, Hunt is definitely going to be in my cash game. Achane is definitely going to be in my cash game. And then I think you can make an argument to go Brian Robinson. You can make an argument to go J. You can also go CMC, depending on what you want to do at wide receiver. That's where I'm not quite sure what I'm going to be doing in cash or in GPP. So I also think that Kenneth Walker is pretty interesting in all formats. I don't really know what Bobby. What are you going to do with Joe Mixon in tournaments?
I'm going to be under on Mixon, playing the stack more. Stroud, Nico Collins, Tank
You
Dell.
love Tank. You always play Tank.
He stinks. Wow, is he bad? He used to be
Not been good.
Fantastic.
Look at the screen, boys. Look who's lurking. Look who's hanging out. Look who's out of hibernation. Dave Potts.
There he is.
There we go.
He said he tried to play Rocket League once. It did not make me feel better about a future where we have all flying cars. You know what, Dave? I will be your Rocket League friend if you want to give it a chance again. I'm not like Tim. I wouldn't just like refuse to be to play with you. But you know,
I would play with Dave.
Well, of course you would. Who wouldn't? Shout out to Dave. Dave, what did you think of Jameis on Thursday? I imagine you enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun in the snow.
He's trolling everyone, correct, Jameis?
Wait, with his like interviews?
Yeah.
I think that's just him. He's just a delightful guy.
Is he a crazy person?
I don't think so. I think that's just his personality. I hope he stays in football forever, like as a commentator or personality of some sort, because
I think that's what he's going for. I think he's doing this on purpose so he can land that gig after.
Why can't he just genuinely be that guy? Like, why can't he? That's just him. I think that's just him.
All right.
You know? I mean, I don't know him personally. We don't play Rocket League or anything, but I just watch him on the TV every once in a while. Bobby, who's your most like ambitious, like single digit ownership running back that you're going to be well over the field on?
I have a few of them. Is Ramondre like 9%? He's under 10%? I love Ramondre. I think he's fantastic. Bucky Irving call by TJ. I don't want to steal any of TJ's takes. I think Bucky Irving's a very strong play. Aaron Jones, I like a good bit. Jonathan Taylor, I'll be playing. Javonte Williams, throw up in my mouth, but I'll be playing him.
Hot hand situation in Denver.
Rico Dowdle.
I really like Rico in large field today. I don't know why, but if they have any chance, it's going to be through Rico. I mean, I suppose Lamb too, but I think Rico's a really strong large field GPP play.
I'm playing Chalk Hunt like over the field, so I guess that's ambitious. I don't know.
In the year 2024, but it's played out well, and the spot obviously is perfect for him. So it makes sense. It's just weird. Like if somebody would have told you 3 months ago that Kareem Hunt's going to be the most popular player on the slate, like, what happened? Yeah, it's pretty wild. Did you give a CMC take, Bobby? Are we in?
I like CMC a good bit. The two I didn't mention that I'll be overweight in tournaments on that I think are relatively low to the chalk running backs that are 20% is Josh Jacobs and Amir Abdullah at 4-3.
Wow.
I'm going to be playing some Abdullah today. And I don't love it, but it allows me to get the spends.
I think you're muted, Dean.
Geez. Flustered over here. My apologies. I was thinking I was watching a video on how to pronounce the other running back's name for the Raiders, and I heard it from his mouth, the horse's mouth, and it's Lauby, if you're curious. That's how you pronounce this. Dylan
was calling him Lube or something.
It's not
made a Lube joke.
He goes, a lot of people have butchered my name and said some vulgar stuff, so he's probably referencing Kirkwood.
For sure.
Yeah. Abdullah, I guess, is the guy. I suppose he's the guy. But the matchup obviously against Denver is not spectacular, but it is weird. We tend to gravitate toward just volume sometimes. And the other thing is like, I don't know how much we need him because, again, who are we spending up for today? Like a lot of really good players are either hurt or they're not playing on the slate, right?
I don't know if you're missing the wide receiver position completely, but it's absolutely loaded today.
I mean, a lot of good wide receivers are hurt. No Jamar Chase on this slate. No Wilson. No Drake London. No Baltimore receivers.
You can keep Drake London. I'm going to take CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, and Nico Collins.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and then quick drop off. And I'm not even sure Hill's good right now. I'm not sure of this. Again, he's not been good since week 1. You know, I don't like to do like just the game log thing, right? But
You're doing it. You're doing it.
Well, they're not throwing the ball deep. They're not throwing the ball deep to him. At least they haven't been. So unless you think he's going to break off like a wide receiver screen, or unless you think they're just going to they're going to change today, which they might, they certainly might. And I'm definitely afraid of not having Hill. I'm not saying
I just don't understand why you wouldn't play in his range of outcomes. Like he could easily be the top scoring player on the slate.
Well, he could, but like he hasn't shown anything close to that of late.
And then it's maybe he's due, Dean. Sometimes people are due.
I suppose. I mean, if he's due, then like everybody's due, right? Then I don't know. Tyler Boyd is due because he's done nothing all season long.
He's not. That isn't the same. You cannot make that out, dude. That is an awful.
That was pretty bad, Dean.
You're just trying to like. This isn't a good. Yeah, I won the argument.
We were arguing the whole time.
We're supposed to be arguing. This is a talk show, right?
It's
so
something.
Blender tells me I have to argue.
Does Blender force you to argue with him? We just naturally, argue.
I feel like I need to have a words count with Blender. Like I got to make sure I'm matching his words.
I like his chances to be beating you. I would imagine.
Number-wise,
he's well ahead. His usage is you're like Tony Snell.
He's legit, yeah. He's a sharp guy, Blender. Though I have to say, very very sharp guy. Should definitely be tuning in to Blender every week. In his content.
11 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday. Mavs is mentioning JMO. What about JMO? He got there last week and like 4 catches, maybe 3 catches, whatever it was. He can get loose. He actually shows, former Tyreek Hill kind of ceiling. He's shown that before. But I think it's got to be in the pool. Tim, you have a take as far as JMO? Obviously, if you have the salary for the money, you want him on Raw first. But what about stopping shorts and getting some JMO in your life?
I mean, I don't hate it. He's only going to be like 3% owned, so I think it's fine. Part of like a Goff stack. But yeah, I mean, he's not my favorite, but I think he's a pretty decent large field GPP play.
Bobby, you got anything as far as JMO?
I don't. I'm not getting to him. And again, for another week in a row, it looks like I'm going to be under on Detroit Lions, and I'm not happy about it.
Well, haven't you learned your lesson that the Lions are good and they score a lot of points and, you want to get pieces of the Lions?
Yeah, I learned it, but I just can't. It's not fitting right now.
Well, I mean, that's up to you. You're not. He's only $6K. You can make him fit if you want to make him fit.
I do what the program tells me, Dean. I do what the program tells me. I don't go away from the program.
He's a system DFS player.
System DFS.
Is Jameson not? Is he not simming well? I'm pulling up the sim stuff now. Tim, I'm sure you have it. Probably. I got to hit refresh. Is he not a good Sims play according to Sims? I have quarterbacks up right now. We're kind of bouncing all over the place, but now we're on receiver. We'll jump back and forth. Lamb, by the way, is the guy at Sim he looks best as far as optimal versus projected ownership, which is
CD.
Lamb looks amazing in Sims.
CD is the guy.
He had an injury tag earlier in the week, just kind of throwing it out there. I'm pretty sure he's off the injury report entirely now. Just kind of a heads up. Justin Jefferson, who's not going to get played either. Not the best matchup in the world, but of course he's a guy that could certainly be the number 1 scorer. Tyreek, by the way, in the red. Just a heads up, Tyreek's in the red. The worst play, according to optimal projected, and this stuff could change when a new batch comes in, is Calvin Ridley, who's been great. Jawan Jennings, also, who's been spectacular, but the quarterback swap may hurt him. I agree with the Jacoby Myers looking bad. That's just if he's going to be popular in that 5 tier, what does he do to break the slate? 7 for 70 and somehow he gets in the box. Okay, I guess I could survive that, but I don't want.
I really don't think Myers has much of a ceiling. I think he's okay in cash, but I don't think he has much of a ceiling in GPPs.
I think you're splitting one. I would not play if you're playing him and Sutton together. I would not do that.
You're saying
Myers,
don't play. You're saying don't play Myers and Sutton together.
Yeah, that's that 5K chalk, I guess, or just the chalk. Those 2 chalk.
Yeah, you're eating too much. You're eating too much ownership, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So again, we need a refresh on this. This was in the middle of the night, but right now the ownership is really, really flat. We have Myers at 22%, Sutton at 21%, JSN at 20%, Ridley at 20%, Amon Rod 18%. Like, it's just a bunch of dudes in the teens. And this will probably change when we get a new batch, but of notes. Hill, by the way, 14%, Jennings at 12%. Collins probably will be more popular if they didn't call that illegal man downfield in the first play of the game. He wasn't taking every snap was the concern. I think he was the third most routes and snaps for Houston last week, that's the concerning thing for me. But certainly,
is he the best receiver in the league?
Best receiver in the league. No, Jefferson's the best receiver in the league.
Yeah.
I think it's Jefferson. Tim?
I think it's Jefferson.
Yeah, he's good. He's really good, Nico, but I think it's Jefferson.
You don't think they'll ramp him up this week? Like, I would just be ahead of it.
Maybe. Yeah, probably. Yeah. But they're charging us like we're getting full Collins. Phil Collins. A little bit more than Tyreek Hill, a little bit more than CeeDee Lamb. What about Seattle? I'm kind of interested in Seattle. We talked about that game. You guys talk about Kyler. Tim, you're talking about Kyler. Both of you guys talk about Kyler. But what about Geno with all his weapons? I know he doesn't have the legs. He showed it off last week, though. Got in the end zone, basically like a walk-off touchdown. Shout out to him. But I think this game is going to be one of the higher scoring ones. And JSN, a little bit more appealing routes these days. Part of that might have been with Metcalf being out. They let him get unleashed a little bit more. They're basically the same price now, Tim, right?
Yeah.
But JSN has caught up. He's caught up to Metcalf. Do you have a take as far as those Seattle receivers?
JSN has the highest opto rate on the slate in Sims. So I mean, and he's going to be pretty highly owned as well. I do like Smith, JSN, maybe run it back with Connor or McBride. I've talked about how much I like this game. So I obviously don't hate that take at all. So yeah, I'm fine getting to Geno. I'm considering playing Geno on FanDuel. He's a good price over there. So yeah, I like Geno. Obviously Metcalf is fine as well. He's pretty popular as well. But I mean, I wouldn't mind getting, you could easily afford to go Geno doubles. So go Geno, JSN, Metcalf, and then go like, James Conner or McBride run back. I really don't mind that at all. I think that's a really, really good play in single entry or large field GPPs.
You have a thought on that, Bobby? Also want to mention, like, again, this stuff should change a little bit, but we currently have Mike Evans on DK at like 2%, which again, I know there's some sort of risk.
I don't think that's correct.
I don't think that's correct either. I think that's going to change, and news might shuffle that around as well. But yeah, if it's 5 or 10%, I'd still really like it. And also Terry McLaurin. I see Don Yeezy mentioning Terry McLaurin in chat. Dallas is terrible. Why are we not playing Scary Terry?
Are we at the wide receiver position now?
We're kind of bouncing around. Yeah.
I
want to go back and talk about the Detroit running backs because we haven't talked about them, which I think is something we should talk about.
Yeah, for sure. I get it. In terms of Terry, I think he's a fantastic play, especially at low ownership. Who was the other one?
Well, Mike Evans at 2% seems like, something you're supposed to get over on. And we all think that's going to change, right?
I'm getting over on it, and everyone should X for that reason. Going back to that.
Yeah, definitely you influence that for sure. We got 25 minutes until Erik and Neil come in. Still 2.5 hours until kickoff. Hit that like button, do subscribe, turn on those notifications, join the conversation as well. Yeah, I did not mean to skip over the Detroit running backs, and they're just not coming in terribly popular. They kind of eat off each other, obviously, but Gibbs at 10%. Montgomery, who scores a touchdown every week, 5%. You got to kind of sort of pay for him. A little bit more expensive on FanDuel. It's just the way FanDuel works. But on DK, I like them both. Gibbs more the home run hitter, I suppose, but they've basically been used the same as well. And Rebar was talking about that on the Pick Six show earlier this week. But you have a preference, Bobby, amongst those two? Will you be over on those two? Why did we not talk about the Detroit running backs?
Because me personally, I didn't talk about them because I'm under on both. Like DeForest Buckner's back there. The Colts defense has been better. Like I'm just not getting. I'm just not getting a ton of Lions again for the second week in a row, and we're just gonna let it ride.
Tim, are you afraid of DeForest Buckner? I'm not.
I'm still not getting to any Detroit running backs though.
You're supposed to. I think you're supposed to.
Have you seen DeForest Buckner play at all?
Well, yeah, they're all sure.
Their whole
like,
defense, their defense has like been so much better with him back in the lineup. You just don't care about D lineman, Dean, is what you're saying. It doesn't matter to you.
Have you seen Gibbs run? Have you seen him in the open field? It's pretty fun.
Yeah,
ideally you wouldn't want him there, I suppose, but I'm not afraid. I'm not running away. And again, I think that's a way to be different. And
really good positive leverage for Gibbs in Sims right now, though. Really strong positive leverage.
He's the number one guy. And that's what I'm saying, Tim. Is that you're seeing as well? As far as optimal versus projected ownership?
Yeah. Yep, he is by quite a bit.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, again,
so I'm gonna play Gibbs then. I'm playing Gibbs. You've sold me.
Man, that's too bad. I kind of like Montgomery, but I guess it's Gibbs.
How's Montgomery look? You got people in chat. If you should be RG Sims, fantastic. You should be checking them out and basically making a lot of your decisions, like your final decisions off this stuff.
Montgomery's neutral, Bobby.
He's neutral. Yeah.
It should have mentioned, by the way, if you want to partake, if you want to have this stuff at your own leisure, you want to run the optimals, you want to have the optimizer, you want to have, Bobby's expert plays, Tim's stuff, my stuff, Jesus stuff for baseball season, football, baseball, basketball, hockey, all the sports, everything you can think of with the exception of NASCAR. For a limited time, get your first month of combo access for $79.99. Now, if you like the NBA, just NBA, it's $5 less, just for NBA only a la carte. We're giving it to you every single sport without NASCAR, $79 and change for your first month. Also, you can win yourself some RT Premium. How do you do that? Well, you jump in the Listener League. The Listener League is probably in the description right now, but it's not in the description. I'm sure producer TJ will go ahead and drop it in chat for the people. I'm in there. I think Tim's in there. I'm not sure if Bobby's in there. I think your show's in there, right? I think Kirkwood makes one for you guys.
We're in there. I made the team this week. Unless Kirkwood changed stuff up, which
he always does that.
He always does it, yeah. So
if it goes south, always blame Kirkwood. Take that down. If you win that, not a week, you get a month. You get a month free of RotoGrinders Premium. Doesn't cost anything to play. Costs you nothing. It's a $0 entry. There's no physical prize, but if you take it down, also let somebody know. Like, we're not tracking you down. Like, nobody knows who. Joey, a bunch of numbers. If you win, we don't know who you are. So if you win, let somebody know here at RG, and we'll juice you up there with a month free of RG Premium. I think we can get TJ to drop it. There it is. Nicely done, TJ. And spots are limited, I think, to 200. So jump in there and just you're playing on DK. Just throw your lineup in there. Doesn't no extra effort involved. By the way, the worst running back. Again, this stuff might change. Optimal versus projected ownership is Kareem Hunt. That's of note. This is for tournaments, to be very, very clear. For tournaments. For cash, you're playing him in cash, and that's that. Do we care about that, Bobby, or just you said you're going to be over on Hunt, and that's it?
I'm pretty much in line with all our Sims at every other position. Just Kareem Hunt's the one I'm playing. It seems like if you just play the 5-7 chalk running back, that's how you should be playing. Maybe not in the millie, but the larger field millie, just play the chalk. I'm chalk running back. I don't know. That's how it seems like. I've been looking at people's stuff, and everyone seems to just jam the chalk running back and that stuff.
Bobby, give me your favorite 4K-ish, 4K or less receiver. Favorite cheap receiver.
Noah Brown. What's his price?
About 4.2, I think.
Really well for us too. What's his price?
I think it's 4.2, I want to say. Top of the head.
Yeah, he would be my favorite. Douglas. I don't know. What's Douglas's price?
Let's see. Pop on New England. You like that New England team, huh? He's 4.5.
I've said it all show, Dean.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I've been listening. You've mentioned Stevenson. You mentioned May. Henry.
What about Devon? What about Devon? Is it Vele, Dean? Vele?
I think it's Volley. I did not
Volley.
see as of the number 2 receiver for Denver.
Do you want me to do the deep dive on Bailey?
I mean, he's a rookie. You're already gonna say he stinks, and that's that. Okay, do a deep dive. All right. So he's not in your pool. He's not somebody you're considering.
Nope.
Jawan Jennings, do we have an official, like, are we bumping him down because of Brandon Allen? He was going
Our
to be
Sims
popular.
hate Jawan Jennings for what it's worth. Hate.
Debo is like another one that's kind of like Hill, where he used to be explosive and used to be able to have like big games, and it's just not happening. And I'm not saying, he's just not going to get played, Debo Samuel. So just of note, interesting, I suppose. Alan's asking about Waddle. He's been terrible.
Are we getting into any McMillan? I'm assuming no, right?
No, I don't think so. Not with Evans back. Like, I'm not.
I like McMillan. I like McMillan.
You like him as a play today?
I'm playing him. Yeah, he's in my pool. I don't know if he's going to hit my teams, but he's in my pool for sure. Because when Evans pulls that hammy, I'm gonna be happy that I had McMillan.
Right. Okay.
You're fist pumping injuries. You're that guy.
No, I'm overweight on Evans, so I just want something to hedge.
Oh, okay. Are you putting in a rule like not playing them together, McMillan and Evans?
No, but I should. I'll do that now.
Okay, just throwing it out there for you. Chat, let me know who your favorite cheap receiver is. Jim is saying Robinson. Is that Wan'Dale Robinson? He's 5'2". I never like playing Wan'Dale Robinson. Just, all those short passes.
Just play Vele if you're going to play Wan'Dale. It's like the same thing.
Maybe Xavier Worthy stays in bounds one of these days on his deep passes. He's only 5K.
Kirkwood was very upset about Xavier Worthy not staying in bounds, so he must have lost some dough on that. I like Worthy. I like Hopkins too. Worthy's the one though. If you're not playing Hunt, like Worthy, if he catches a bomb, it's taking a drive from Hunt, right? So
I think Worthy's the more fun play over Hopkins. I think the sexier play. Worthy or Odunze? Donnie wants to know in chat. Who do you prefer amongst those two?
Odunze. Our Sims like both for what it's worth, so it's good to know.
Beantown, it says Thielen of Coker is out. How much is Thielen? Yeah, I thought he might be 3.
I do like the Thielen. I know Dean was poo-pooing him.
He hasn't played in like 2 months, and he's 97 years old. They don't even play him.
He's a professional receiver, Dean. He's a professional receiver. They're going to be trailing.
Yeah, it's the thing announcers say, like, this hitter gives you a professional at bat, like they strike out like a professional, they ground out like a professional. Thielen's a professional receiver, but that's like it's a nice way of saying he's not that good.
I would say if I was in the NFL, I'd be similar to Adam Thielen.
Are you faster than him? I know you're faster than all players in the NFL.
I'm not faster than him. No. I have good hands, Dean.
Bigger than Allen?
Bigger than Allen. Bigger hands than Allen, yep.
Jalen Tolbert. Just trying to think of other guys that might. I don't. The NWI thing has got to stop. He's got to stop getting in the end zone every single week on something goofy. He had that 98-yard touchdown pass last week. You want to bank on that by all means. I'm not chasing it. Westbrook Akine. I don't know if you saw. He just keeps catching a touchdown every single week.
Yeah,
he's like, that. I don't think that's going to happen. Nico or Tyreek? I think that's Nico for me.
That's tough, but probably Nico.
Tyreek for me.
They're both great.
They're
Yo
both
Daddy. Tim Marvin or Terry McLaurin? I'll take Terry.
Man, that's tough. Because Terry's better in a vacuum, but I like the spot for Marvin. I guess it depends on contest also, but I guess I'd go Terry.
Yeah, it depends on your quarterback too. Like if you have Kyler, you take Harrison. And if you have Terry, you find the salary for Jaden. Tight ends, Tim, how are you approaching tight ends today?
Well, it kind of depends on my quarterback, but I'm thinking about Trey McBride to go with Kyler, or I'm just thinking about punting it with Schoonmaker. Or if I go Bo Nix with Sutton, I might run it back with Bowers. And I do like Hunter Henry quite a bit. And I do like Sam Laporta too in GPPs.
Is tight end probably like the last thing you're putting in your lineup? Unless, of course, like you have a quarterback that makes sense to, if you're starting McKyer, then you plug in, his tight end. But otherwise, it's just like whichever one fits the build. Is that kind of where you're at on it?
Pretty much.
Is it weird to say that I think tight end's the biggest decision point on the slate?
Explain that. I'm not saying you're wrong, but why do you think that?
Because Kelsey is going to be the chalk, right? And he's projecting as a good play. He's showing in our sims as a good play. You have Hunt there. They negatively correlate, I would imagine, near the goal line. There's Noah Gray there who caught 2 TDs last week, and they seem to be working him in a little bit more. And I think tight end is strong. Like we talked about Bowers, we talked about Laporta, we talked about Hawkinson. Or we haven't really, but we talked about him on yesterday's show. Schoonmaker's down at 2.5. I think he's fine. I like Hunter Henry. I like Zach Ertz. There's like a lot of guys I like in the tight end position.
I think Schoonmaker, maybe I'm wrong. I thought he would be the most popular tight end today, but maybe that's the wrong take. I'm sort of surprised he's only at 9%. Again, this stuff will change. We are going to get a new batch of ownership at some point. This is still from like 1 o'clock in the morning. I thought he'd be more popular.
TJ likes Schoonmaker for what it's worth.
Yeah, I do. I mean, he's not just some stiff. There's some draft equity to him. He was a 2nd-round draft pick. He probably is faster than Bobby. They're going to be behind almost definitely. There's no reason to take him off the field. You want to see what you have in this guy. So I like him a good bit. There is an opportunity cost though, because I do like Kelsey. I like McBride. I think Bowers. Geez, Bowers is going to break the rookie record, all sorts of tight end records, assuming he stays healthy. He might have the most receptions in football right now, right? It's just, 16 targets or so last week? First look, basically every single time, just outrageous. Again, the matchup's not great there against Denver, but you can certainly compile a ton. Jonnu, I know his numbers look different last week. I think like that 50-yard touchdown he had, and they're basically killing the game. And he got loose in the secondary. They're expecting a run. I don't mind going back there. Ertz, if you're pairing him with Daniels, sure. I basically not played Ertz all season long and kind of regretted it. He's been pretty good. Other people that are worth a look. Trying to see if the chat is it Kittle. Yeah, just especially on FanDuel where his price is outrageous and the quarterback situation. I don't think Kittle. He's coming back from injury, but San Fran needs to win. They got to win. They're in sort of desperate mode because they blew that game last week versus Seattle, and they're on the outside looking in as far as playoff stuff.
My worry with Kittle would be the health of Trent Williams, like if he's good to go, but if he's still, we think he's going to play, but they just leave Kittle in to block more.
Yeah, he's obviously, the splits as far as the running back situation. When he's in, when he's out, the running back looks a lot better when he's in there. By the way, CMC's just not looked good for 2 weeks. Just throwing that out there. Not saying he can't.
He's a married man now, Dean. He's a married man. He dates.
What does that mean? He can't play football anymore once he gets married? His priorities have changed.
Spending more time on the workbench,
Well, I've heard it works differently, but I'm not married. I don't know. I've heard the inverse of that. But
he's newly married. That's what it is. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. He's thinking. He's thinking about his future. Is that he's basically? You're saying he's afraid to get hit? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying he's. Never mind. I'm just not. I think he's gonna. McCaffrey will have a good day today. Brandon Allen, small hands. He's gonna be dumping it into him quick. McCaffrey's fine. He's gonna get peppered.
All right. Dowdle or Lamb? Jim wants to know.
Lamb.
Lamb is the best receiver play on the slate, according to our sims. Do not go away from Lamb. And that's the way to play Jaden is just make sure you have Lamb on the other side I think it's definitely Lamb. I think Dowdle's fine too, though.
I think Dowdle's fine in like a Millie Maker lineup.
The key to that game. I can't remember which one of you guys said, but you were really talking up Dowdle. If I play Daniels and McLaurin, can I play two Dallas pass catching run backs? Do I want two players attached to Cooper Rush? I'm just trying to think Lamb and I know Shoemaker doesn't cost anything, but I mean, cost a roster spot. Just trying to think of a lot of.
I wouldn't play two Dallas pass catchers.
I think it depends on what you're playing. Like with the stuff that you play, Dean, it's probably fine, but the larger field stuff, I wouldn't.
Like the double spy, that kind of thing, where it's like 500 people or 700 people. I just don't know if I want two pass catchers relying on Cooper Rush. I don't want one relying on Cooper Rush, let alone two. So I guess I could do Dowdle and one. Or I could just do Shoemaker.
Cooper Rush is gonna throw out a CD for a good bit of yards.
Singles, doubles?
Singles, only singles. I guess you could double them with Shoemaker, 2,500.
So you think Rush is better than the four? I know it's a salary thing, but you think he's better than the 4K guys?
I just think he's in my pool. I don't think he's better than the 4K guys, but he's in my pool.
Yeah.
Look at the team total on Washington, like 29. I know the Dallas team total isn't great, but Lamb showing as the best play on the slate. He's correlated with Rush. I guess you can have. I think it's fine to have Rush in your pool.
I keep refreshing, waiting for a new batch. Not just yet. I assume the next show we'll be discussing it, but I'm guessing we're going to get new ownership and some whatever, little tinkering here, a little tinkering there. Things get refined as we close in on lock. Still 2 hours, a little bit more than 2 hours to go before a lock. Erik and Neil coming in here shortly. Any more questions in chats? Eric's thrown out little Jordan Humphrey as my favorite value play. I know he scored a touchdown last week, but I'm not chasing that. They are without one of their fringe receivers, Denver. Why am I losing his name?
I would much prefer little Jordan Humphrey over Vele.
Yeah? Okay.
Not that I don't think I'm playing a lot of either, but I like the call if you're picking one of the two.
Reynolds is the guy I was thinking of. Reynolds is not playing. He's on IR for Denver. Tim, I got a cash question for you from It's Me, Breezy. Amir Abdullah, is he okay for cash?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Is it because the opportunity cost of running back is really, really strong? Is that
correct?
Yeah. And also, again, I know there's some good receivers to spend up on if you want to, but it's not a slate where, you tell me, Tim, who's the player oh my God, I'm not going to be able to spend up on so-and-so. Who are you frightened of, in theory, of not having in your lineup? I don't know if I have a player.
Amon-Ra.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of Amon-Ra. I'm a little bit afraid of Nico. Obviously Jefferson, but I mean, not really. More Brown and Collins for me.
Bobby, who's the player you're frightened of? The big spend, the big price tag, that just being under the field, that's going to scare you. Is it the Detroit guys? Well, the Detroit guys aren't going to be that well owned outside of the receiver. Amon-Ra.
I think it's HN.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
I'm playing him, but I'm not going to be 2x the field on him.
For real, I was asking about Hawkinson. I have not considered Hawkinson. Should I be considering Hawkinson?
I wouldn't play Hawkinson.
I'm in on Hawk.
Yeah? Okay.
4,200 for Hawk.
All right. Yeah. He did have 9 targets versus Jacksonville. We haven't quite seen it just yet, coming back from a pretty severe injury. Eric's asking about Jordan Love. I don't think we talk about the Packers all game, but we're talking about Sam Fran being beat up offensively, especially the quarterback situation. They're hurting defensively too, right? Bosa and several other pieces are expected to be out. I meant to mention this before. I think Jacobs is a really good pivot. I think this could be a Josh Jacobs day. The receivers, I kind of throw my hands up. It's Reed, possibly Watson. You never know, Dobbs, Wicks. But why do we not talk about the Packers at all, Tim? Is that somebody or a team we should be mentioning? They're kind of going unnoticed.
Well, they're not in consideration for cash. Let me see about Sims. They're not. I don't think that they're simming particularly well either. So I don't know. It's hard to know where their production goes through the air. I don't mind Jacobs. but I don't want.
That's my
any of
favorite
the,
play.
I don't mind. I don't want any of the wide receivers though, or Love for that matter. Jacobs would be the only play for me in the Green Bay side.
Bobby, what do you have in the Packers?
I'm going to be heavy on Jacobs. I think the reason you're not seeing Love is what Tim said. It's Russian roulette with these receivers, like pick one. And we already have that issue with a chalky guy and Anthony Richardson where it's the same situation. So if you wanted to play Love and guess correctly, and you guess correctly, like it's probably fine, but I have no idea. I think Watson and Reed, I guess, maybe Dobbs, I gave 3 of them. Like, I don't know.
We have an official defense take, Bobby. I know that was at one point in time, that was your specialty on the Tournament Takes podcast. I don't know if you've given that up. Are you still a defensive specialist? It feels like there's a lot of good choices.
I love the chuckle from Tim.
He's a good wingman. He's a good epic man. Like Texans against Tennessee look good. The Bucks against DeVito, and DeVito getting sacks all the time. Chiefs versus Carolina, if you want to pair him with Hunt, old school style. There's just Dallas quarterback, whatever nonsense there is happening. I feel like there's going to be a couple of good defenses. I know it's not the most highest variance position. You can't really predict it, but I just think that today is a good day to spend up on defense if you can. But it's just hard.
I like the Bucks, but I feel like that's the chalk, right? 3,300. If you're talking,
they are the chalk, yeah.
Yeah. There's no 2-5 chalk, Bears at 2-5.
I think the Bears are be the chalkiest of the low price guys defenses.
I think you can play the Titans at 2,300. Like Stroud hasn't been great, I guess.
Did you guys think it was weird that Allen was the quarterback selected for San Fran? I don't know their depth chart. I guess Allen has been the second guy. But wasn't Josh Dobbs really good, at least for a month last year?
Yeah.
And also if Allen's not good for a half, does he get pulled for Dobbs? Just throwing. I mean, I'm not.
I don't know. I mean, they really need to win this game. So
yeah, which means
they're not going
to
be screwing around just to give him a luck. So if he's struggling, it wouldn't shock me.
I'm just saying that we've last seen Dobbs be good in this league before we last seen Allen be good in this league. Allen had that 4-touchdown game a couple of years ago, but Dobbs was pretty good last year. I just thought it was. I'm not familiar with San Fran and how they run their stuff, but I thought Dobbs was competent. Remember, he just stepped in last year for Minnesota. It's this guy's all right. I 2 days notice. TJ, what do you got?
Shouldn't that make us like Allen better? If we've seen Dobbs and we know he's been good, and Shanahan, who's the QB whisperer, is sitting in that room and goes, okay, I see Dobbs. Brandon Allen's our better option. Shouldn't that make us like Brandon Allen even more?
What is Dobbs' hand size is what I'm asking. That's important. Bobby, you're a hand specialist. Do you know this on the top of your head?
I don't know. Probably bigger than Allen's.
I just know he's a bigger brain, I think, because he's a genius, right? Is he an astronaut?
I think
Dobbs?
It had something to do with NASA. I was watching NFL things last year. Yeah. Bigger brain.
Yeah, smart guy. All right. TJ, let me know when Erik and Neil are here as well. Give me a heads up, please, if you don't mind. They are. There you go. Tessie. I had a feeling they were lurking. Let's see who's breaking the slate. Tim, you're going to go first. Bobby, you're going to raise him. Who's breaking the slate, Tim?
I like Trey McBride today. 2 touchdowns and 100 yards receiving for Trey McBride.
All right. Trey McBride. Bobby, see it and raise it.
I want to go CeeDee Lamb, but to tilt Dean, I'm going Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's well played. I'm going to say Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is my random name I'm going to throw out there. Again, I think that's kind of lost in the shuffle, Josh Jacobs. Let's go ahead and bring on a couple people that are going to be giving you some GPP Final Takes. We got Neil. We have Erik. Let's play the music. Here we go. What's up, Erik? Neil? Good?
Dean, for a second, I thought when you said "let's play the music," we had a WWE style intro that I wasn't aware of coming.
What would be your walk-up song? Have you thought about this, Erik? If theoretically, hypothetically, do you have a walk-up song in your head? Bobby likes to pretend like he's faster than everybody in the NFL, so he probably has one ready to go.
I never said that. I just said I was faster than Jake Bolo. That's it. I never said that. I said I was faster than a guy who runs a 4.8.
Which is probably incorrect. Probably incorrect.
I'm gonna have to like film a 40. This is getting out of hand.
The chat's letting us know, by the way. TJ can't stop by the Chili Peppers. Okay. Can you see that and raise it, Erik? Did you have one? Did I give you enough time? Who's your walk-up song?
That's a good question. In the chat was a phenomenal Party in the USA.
It's a good answer.
Miley Cyrus is a good one. I think I'll stick with that one. I like that recommendation.
All right. Neil, you got one? Put you on the spot here.
People always make fun of me because I like, even when I work out, I listen to like slow, folky kind of music a lot of the time. So honestly, I don't have a great walk-up song. I probably
Jim Croce? Like, what are you listening to?
Iron and Wine, just like really like slow.
Okay.
Folky type stuff. So
Hipster.
I don't have a walk-up song that other people will get pumped up to. But like,
what was Shawn Michaels' walk-up song?
I was literally gonna say Shawn Michaels was if I had to pick a.
Heartbreak Kid.
Yes, the Heartbreak Kid.
Sexy Boy.
Yes. Have you ever listened to the lyrics of some of those? By
it's
the
probably
way,
terrible.
The actual lyrics are hilarious, like truly hilarious.
I wish the WWF was still a thing today.
Well, I got news for
It
you.
is, but it's like watered down.
thing,
It's
yeah.
crazy. It's like insane.
There's an entire network, I think. Yeah. Tim, did we give you enough time? You got something?
Have you watched the McMahon documentary? Not to get on
On
this
Netflix,
track, but
No,
Bill Simmons
I
produced it.
watched
It's pretty interesting.
Mhm.
It's worth watching. Tim, walk-up song or nothing?
Regulators.
Oh, Warren G?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's out of left field for Tim. I would have picked like
Good song.
More
All
man.
right. Let's get out of here. It's the tournament takes. No, tournament take. It's the GPP Final Takes. Myself, Tim, Bobby. We wish you guys good luck. We're going to hand you off to Neil and Erik. Erik, take it away.
I am now Neil spiraling down the old music and old wrestling themes. We got Ultimate Warrior in the chat. Today is a good day. Ice Cube, all sorts of fun stuff in the chat. So maybe we'll make this is going to be a weird music themed episode. But if you have not joined us before, I'm pretty excited to get into this slate, Neil. Feels a little different than some of the slates that we've been having, which of course we'll get into the details why. But if you've not been with us before, hey, welcome to GPP Final Takes, aka GPP Flannel Takes. We're going to try to hit all the kind of final most notable tournament things. That may be certain games, that may be certain positions, but we're not necessarily going to go game by game or position by position. We're going to try to cover, of course, all of our favorite tournament plays, but answer your questions as well. So post those in the chat. I'll keep tabs on there. We'll hit as many as we can throughout the show while covering all these big items. Neil, this, I'm sure that you saw, but in the expert survey, shout out Davis Maddock, posted like our kind of weekly rotating question, being this week, like pricing's a little looser. I don't know. DraftKings does this, they're playing this social experiment on us, I feel like, where just occasionally, pricing gets really, really tight, where we got to talk about Keyshawn Boutte as the, chalky player. Or then this week, it's like, I don't know, there's a lot of interesting 5K guys, 6K guys. There's a lot of stronger projections this week. And I thought that was kind of the theme. So on a week like this, how are you thinking about the slate coming into it when, there's a lot more viable plays that like you actually, right, you feel good about clicking some of these guys in as opposed to maybe some of the tighter pricing weeks?
Yeah, I think it's a really good week to get contrarian because with the pricing being looser, you now have a bunch of players that are going low owned, even though they like are priced well or like easy to get to on the slate. So, we were kind of forced to talk about players like Keyshawn Boutte. And by the way, I didn't think it was a bad play. I actually think Boutte was a fine play last week.
He's running a lot of routes. If we got points per routes run, he would win a lot of.
Yeah, and there was a trend like for like weeks prior to that where he's running a lot of routes. We saw 17 targets over 3 games, whatever. But like you have to talk about guys like that more so on slates like that where you don't really have that many great options that are cheap, or like you're kind of forced to play like, okay, I guess we got to find a cheap guy, and like he's the only one who's running routes, or like that you can really make a case for. Whereas now it's a lot easier because pricing is looser. You can go stars and scrubs, or you can just play like kind of the mid range. A lot easier to find more contrarian players who are actually like in good spots, like have good roles on their teams. So it's going to be easier to be a little bit more contrarian this week.
I totally agree. That was you kind of summed up much better than I generally do. My answer to that question on the expert survey, which was basically, this is slight hyperbole, but that's kind of how I speak, is like you almost can't be too contrarian on these kinds of weeks. Of course, you don't need to. It's one of those things like lineups, not players, all that fun stuff. You don't need to force a bunch of 1 to 5% owned guys, but also some weeks, I think when pricing is tighter, if your whole lineup is like 2-3% owned guys, you're probably giving up too much projection because, like you said, you're just playing some, millie maker stuff, whatever, do whatever you want to do. Yeah. But in your, kind of your serious lineups, if you will, you're probably giving up too much projection when you go that off the wall in a tighter pricing week. This week, we'll get to it. There's a bunch of guys, not nearly the highest owned players on the slate that I think are not only viable, but just genuinely good plays, might be chalk on other weeks. So I'm not forcing anything, but I'm leaning more into some lower owned plays today. So let's start with some of those more tournament plays. We'll go through some of the most popular stuff, but I thought this was a good question from it's specifically focused on FanDuel, but Carolina guy asks, we can just keep this site agnostic. Just like in terms of a large field tournament stack, right? Quarterback with the pass catcher. From a tournament perspective, where are you kind of gravitating to first?
I really love Kyler Murray playing some Arizona stacks. That's a game that is not going to be a super contrarian game, and a lot of people playing the other side of it, playing it through Geno Smith. But you can get more contrarian by going to Kyler Murray at pretty low ownership. Marvin Harrison Jr. is coming in at pretty low ownership. He's had a pretty strong role, but now he gets that potentially post-bye rookie bump. And it's just a great spot for Carolina. So, and you can obviously play it through Trey McBride if you wanted to. Also, some easy bringbacks in DK Metcalf or JSN or Kenneth Walker. So, really love that game environment. And I think the Kyler Murray side of it is one that I plan to be pretty overweight relative to the field on. How about you?
That game looks really fun. And every time a Seahawks game looks really fun, my stomach starts to turn a little bit because this is what they do. I screwed up my just quickly. Should have done this at the intro. Shout out to us for getting back on we got back on track last week with a lot of good takes here on the Final Take show. I was not able to piece it all together. My stupid brain took Taysom out, and I was like, I got to mix some. We got on the Lions thing, which was awesome, and so we were like, Lions are going to score 50, right? Lions scored 50. And, I'm like, okay, I got to figure out how to make this work. And like, oh, okay. We also talked about how Taysom was like the best tournament play on the board. And I take him out and you're just like, oh, no, like that was the difference. But feeling much better this week. And Seattle was one thing that I didn't get perfect. DK Metcalf was fine, but he was like my favorite tournament play at wide receiver, and apparently is the wide receiver 2 to Jackson Smith and Jigba. He is now. I'm chasing my tail, right? I like both of them, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. I like both of them this week, but it's also a little hard to deny kind of the emergence of JSN, I think, and the pricing is fine on both the Seattle guys. The pricing is quite good on all of the Cardinals guys. So it kind of all this game really comes together perfectly. Neither defense is particularly special, and it's condensed on both sides. If you had to pick, right, like a favorite setting, Kyler Murray aside, are you preferring to go with Marvin Harrison or Trey McBride? And then what about the Seattle side, where we kind of have 3 interesting guys if we toss Ken Walker in the mix, and I guess James Conner too, right? So we got a whole bunch of viable plays in this game.
I think Marvin Harrison is my number 1 preference there, just because I think he has, bigger splash play upside. Of course, Trey McBride, I think, is going to score a touchdown through the air at some point this season. Eventually it will happen. But Marvin Harrison, I think, still has like the 60-yard touchdown type of upside. Whereas I don't know that Trey McBride we're going to see that from him. Yeah, and coming in lower owned than Trey McBride, I think just largely because he is a wide receiver instead of a tight end, and you can easily play Trey McBride in there. So I think probably Marvin Harrison is my preference to stack with Kyler, and then on the Seattle side, I think I still prefer to go to DK Metcalf. I agree with you; it's like kind of a toss up. You can obviously go either way, but I think my preference would be to go to DK Metcalf. The downside to that setup, if you do that trio, is you're using 2 of your wide receiver spots.
Right.
You haven't solved any of your running back or tight end, but I still think that it's a pretty strong way to go. So I think that is probably my preference as far as like the stack with the bring back. How about you? How would you like to play it?
Yeah, I'm really stuck on the Trey McBride thing. I think I called him in the expert survey my kind of favorite tournament play. Funny you brought up Kyler, because I believe Kyler and Trey McBride was my favorite correlation. I don't think I singled out a Seattle guy, because I'm sick of getting that wrong every single week. But McBride just feels to me like, again, with kind of the intro we talked about, with a little bit looser pricing. We'll get to Luke Schoonmaker, and I get it, right? I like him too, but with a little bit looser pricing, and with the fact that, like, I firmly believe Trey McBride's the best tight end in the NFL. Like, at least from a pass catching perspective, George Kittle's probably the actual best tight end in the NFL. Like, this type of, maybe this is, he's forever doomed to never score touchdowns, but we know inherently how fluky this is. You remember Deontay Johnson? Now, well, I don't mean remember just because he's not
barely,
anymore.
just barely. I remember him.
I mean, a few years ago, he scored like 1 touch. He had a similar, really bad. And now he's also probably not a high expectation touchdown scorer generally, but he also had like 8 the year before that, like 8 or 9 touchdowns the year before that. It's just, when you earn volume and you're good at football, and especially you're on a good offense, like, you're probably going to score some touchdowns. And so Seattle is a phenomenal spot, I think, for everybody. But Trey McBride is kind of the guy that sticks out to me from a tournament perspective in this game. Like I said, you can afford him in most lineups. Let's hit a couple questions before we move on. Speaking of this, Jonathan asks, Jackson Smith and Jigba or Cortland Sutton? Somewhat similar prices there, and Broncos drawing the Raiders. Cortland Sutton apparently is just going to get like 12 targets every single week. But what do you think about those two guys?
I mean, yeah, both are like clearly pretty strong options, both going to get some ownership. I guess like overall, probably Cortland Sutton if you're just going for a random one-off, because he is a bit cheaper, still has a nice matchup, like the clear number 1 on his team, or like in season long, I don't know who I'd go to, and probably Sutton in season long, whoever projects better.
I think so. Yeah, right. That's every time somebody asks this guy or this guy, I'm like, I don't know. I just pull up the projections.
Literally, I just play whoever projects better. Like, I don't want to have to think about it for season long. Just like every roster spot, more or less, I'm just playing whoever projects better. But a lot of, I'm probably going to end up with more JSN because I'm playing a lot of that game stack. So if I am playing in that game, I'm going to go to JSN over Cortland Sutton most of the time. But yeah, it's a good question. It's a tough one though. It's really like dependent on the lineup. JSN is also like 600 more expensive than Sutton, something like that.
Yep.
So yeah, it's not exactly a 1v1 in my mind. But yeah, I think generally, like, if I'm just looking for a random one-off, I probably put Sutton in there first more often than JSN. How about you?
Yeah, I think that's what makes sense. JSN, it's not that I don't want a one-off JSN, because that's not the case, but I think he fits best around Seattle's weird, dude. Like, we know they're going to throw a lot, but they kind of need some, these Seattle games never go according to plan. I'm sure you follow Mina Kimes, a big Seattle fan. She jokes every Sunday about, like, is there ever going to be a normal Seattle Seahawks game? And just again, last week, right? Looked terrible. And then Bosa goes down, which we'll probably talk about,
right,
and off to the races for the Seahawks passing game, and Geno runs in the game-winning touchdown on the last drive. It's like, I'm not saying that really matters, but I think Cortland Sutton, just from a, like, what you're going to get every single week, like, and it's something good. It's something that you want. Is he like a JSN has the 40 point upside in his range of outcomes, I think, but you're wanting that game to go a certain way for that to happen. Sutton is just like always going to get double digits. It's just, I don't know, the 40s in the range, especially against the Raiders, not because they're a bad matchup, because the Raiders are probably not going to push back that much and make this crazy. So that's kind of my take between the two. Any Tyler Lockett? We didn't mention any. There was a question on Tyler Lockett, just not for me.
I don't think I'll get to any Tyler Lockett. It just doesn't project really well, even point per dollar. So yeah, I think that's a stay away from me.
I think it's over for
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett as a fantasy asset for sure. One more quick question, because after the Lions conversation, there's a few different Lions questions here in the chat, and they are actually from a GPP Final Take, kind of similar to last week, where that's how it feels to me. I'm trying to figure out how much of this is recency bias and the fact that we literally had this conversation last week, and how much of it is like this is genuinely good tournament strategy. But yet again, the Detroit Lions in a dome in Indianapolis against a bad defense, nobody wants to play any of them, right? The Lions. And again, I asked myself, if anybody's going to hang a huge number, it's probably the best offense in the NFL in a dome against a bad defense. Like it's like feels like very similar, except I think Indy could actually push back a little bit more so than Jackson. Now that didn't matter. 52 points is 52 points, but I could see this being more like 49-21 or something like that. Where, you know what I mean?
Real pushback.
Like in a ceiling outcome for the Lions, the Colts actually score a couple times, so it's not Hendon Hooker for the whole fourth quarter type thing. So the questions of Kyler versus Goff, and then somebody asked, like, are we going back to the Lions today? What do you think about them from a tournament perspective?
Yeah, no, I think I'll go back to some Lions. It's not going to be like a focal point for me. It wouldn't be my single entry, I don't think. But I think that, like you said, we just saw it last week. We know that is in the range of outcomes, and people are still not really in on it. It's not quite the same cake matchup that the Jacksonville defense is, but it is still a very strong matchup. As you said, it's in a dome, like has all the game environments, and honestly, like matchup almost doesn't matter for the Lions. Like I'm sure there are like some of the worst matchups probably is going to slow them down a little bit, but like nobody's really slowing down the Lions so far this year. So yeah, I think that they will be able to just put up a lot of points again. So yes, I think that it is a strong way to go. The downside to the Lions is just they spread it out so much, and this is something
so frustrating.
Like last week, somebody on the show, somebody asked us, "Can you play David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs together?" And when we said yes, and that was looking like the play of all plays in the first half, and then it was like, oh my god, the game script is so good for the Lions for these running backs. Like they're up, of course, they're just going to continue crushing. And then they just didn't continue running that much in the second. They just kept throwing in the second half, even when they were up a ton. So it can be frustrating. I guess, I say that like they spread it out too much for anybody to completely go off. And then Goff and Amon-Ra really did go off last week anyway, even with the running backs going off. So I don't know. Like, I think they kind of need to score 50 points generally for one player to really separate is the downside to the Lions, because they do spread it around, play with their food. But I still think that, yes, all of them are very much in play.
I think that's my struggle. And again, why the intro part about the pricing and everything I think is so important is because last week, even though they're expensive, it sounds counterintuitive. When the pricing is rough, if you just hit that one offense, it kind of like doesn't like you just fit pieces around it that are fine, right? If you had Taysom Hill and a bunch of Lions, like who really cares what else you had on your team? You were like live to win tournaments, not just like to have a good week. And this week it's a little bit different, right? Like you said, they are going to spread it out. I think they might score 40 plus again. I mean, it's what they do. And yet, like you said, David Montgomery, had 2 touchdowns in the first half, maybe even finishes with 24 fantasy points. It's like, I like them again, because I'm not going to say that that's always going to happen. It's possible that we get something, a little bit of a different outcome, but I kind of think that they want to, like, this is the Detroit vibe, right? Like they're going to get the bye. They know that. So they're like, everybody eats, right? Like Brock Wright touchdown, I like everybody, like just let everybody get some. It's kind of the Dan Campbell vibe around the place. Yeah. So for fantasy at these prices, it's like, they're fine, but I know that they're going to score. So it's that weird thing where I go back, it's a push pull thing. So I like them. I don't love them as much as last week, I guess is how I would say it.
Yeah, that sounds exactly right to me. If you are looking for a team like last week, to me, that's the Chiefs is the exact same situation as the Lions from last week, where it's like, okay, nobody really wants to play this. And yeah, most likely they're just going to be running it in the second half. But also maybe they don't, and like they should be able to do exactly everything they want with the Panthers defense. Like the Chiefs should have no trouble scoring on the Panthers defense. So to me, like Mahomes would be the Goff play of this week, more so than going back to Goff and just like hope that, what if they do just decide to continue to, let's try to build chemistry with Patrick Mahomes and DeAndre Hopkins. This is a good game to just work on that chemistry. Let's pepper Hopkins, let's pepper Travis Kelce, whatever. So to me, the Chiefs is kind of an interesting spot if you are looking for something that could be like the Lions from last week. Do you have any interest there? It's kind of off the wall, even though I don't think it should be.
That is exactly who I was going to bring up as here's this. Now, the Lions are a much better offense than the Chiefs, which is kind of crazy to say out loud.
Yeah,
but
true.
The facts are the facts. But it kind of feels similar to where all things are coming together to where, look, I mean, I like Kareem Hunt too. And he's probably going to have a very good game. But like a Kareem Hunt currently projecting as the chalkiest player on DraftKings was not on my bingo card. Okay. Heading into at any point this season. I know Xavier Worthy is kind of a meme at this point, but $5,000. This feels almost like a let's get Mahomes going, let's get Worthy going, let's build that chemistry with DeAndre Hopkins. Like I said, Kareem Hunt's going to do his thing, but maybe I'm just off of a loss, off of nearly 2 losses, quite frankly. Like they're really like treading water right now, and I think that they need to like elevate a little bit. I could definitely see, let's come out and get Pat going a little bit here against Carolina, because they're just fish food, man. Like they're just that defense is so exploitable. So why not, come out and, like you said, get pepper some of these guys, get Worthy's confidence back up a little bit, maybe get Mahomes' confidence back up a little bit. They felt like that team, and no one wants to do it, right? If we had said this price Patrick Mahomes with his wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 against the worst defense you've ever seen in your life, and nobody's playing him, and they're playing Kareem Hunt,
right?
Like you would be like, that's nuts. And like I said, I'm not knocking Kareem Hunt. I'm just saying it feels like we're given like the Chiefs are going to score here, but nobody feels really comfortable with it.
And I think a really important point that you made there is that they did lose last week. Like that is one that, like, if they were still undefeated, I would have, more reservation. I mean, I still have some reservations about, like, are they really going to continue just keeping their foot on the gas in the second half? But the fact that they lost last week does, to me, make it seem more likely that, like you say, they want to get everybody's confidence up. Let's get them involved. Let's score a lot of points on here. Let's, get everybody's confidence up. Just throw 5 touchdowns and, spread out some of those touchdowns. So I think that it's, like I said, just like could be the Lions from last week, and they have a little bit more incentive to play it to just like keep scoring points because they did lose last week. So that's a really good point, I think.
Are you playing any Panthers on the other side?
I don't really want to. I think you could go to like Adam Thielen, I guess, but like there's nobody that I'm excited to play on the Panthers. I'm definitely not going to force a bring back. Are you?
No, but I think I like Thielen a little bit more than the famous last words. I like Thielen just a little bit more. I don't know that I'll play him, but I'm considering him on the Chiefs stacks. I mean, what he did to start last year at 4,700 on DraftKings. I'm not saying that will happen again, but he actually was off to a fine start this season. Had the gate on the touchdown that he caught in that game was when he hurt the hamstring or whatever he did.
That's right.
to get injured. And obviously no Deontay Johnson now. No, not that he matters, but no Jonathan Mingo. Jalen Coker's banged up, I believe. So it's like we're kind of drawing thin here on targets. He is similar to me to like down in the Pop Douglases and those guys. It's like if it fits in your lineup, cool, but like I'm not building my foundation. I'm not building the ship out of Adam Thielen. Let's just
in a game stack, you can throw him in there. It's kind of where I'm at with that.
Definitely. All right, a couple more questions before we move on to some of our other favorite stacks and tournament plays. TJ also in the chat, shout out. Final weather update there. I'll bring that up as we're talking about some of this stuff. Marie asks about another team in a pretty good spot on offense, although Tristan Wirfs is out for the Tampa Bay Bucks, a pretty critical, they're awesome left tackle. But Bucky Irving or Rashad White, what do you think about the 1v1 of the 2 Bucks backs at the same price, which is pretty tilting, but also just the Tampa Bay Bucks overall?
Yeah, so the Bucks are one of the tougher teams to get right, I think, on this slate, because it's a pretty like decent enough spot against the Giants, and they've just been really good all year. Like Baker Mayfield has put up like top 5 fantasy points. I forget exactly where he ranks in terms of fantasy points, but like
Yeah.
he's averaging among the top among all quarterbacks, and nobody's playing him. So it's like I kind of want to go to Baker here when nobody's going to be on him. But then it is tough because it's kind of unclear how much Mike Evans is going to be able to play. Like it's been kind of sounds like he's going to be potentially on a pitch count. The coach week has been a little bit vague there. It's like, oh, we want to get him going. We'll keep him in there as long as we can until we can't or whatever. You know, it's just like I'm misquoting, but it's kind of along those lines where it's like we like to get him going, but also like we won't play him when we don't need to. I don't know. It's very up in the air how much Mike Evans is going to play. And then that also affects like, well, can I go to Cade Otton? Well, if Mike Evans is limited to 30% route participation, suddenly I would love Cade Otton because he's been just crushing it with Mike Evans out. But then if Mike Evans is playing 80%, then it's like, well, I don't really have a ton of interest in a $5,500 Cade Otton. And I don't think I want to go to any other pass catchers there. Yeah, I can't think of any others that I'd like to go there. As far as the running backs go, I feel like I'm torn because in a vacuum, I think I would rather go to Bucky Irving, but I also think every show I've been on this week, people have brought up Bucky Irving, and it sounds like nobody's really interested in playing Rachaad White, and he's actually had kind of the better fantasy role. Like he is the more of the pass catching back. So maybe I'd rather go to Rachaad White just because nobody's really talking about him. I don't know that the ownership projection is actually all that different. But yeah, I think,
doesn't that feel like one where when you flip over the cards or when people are forced to put
it does. Yeah.
They're like, if I'm forced to click in one of the two backs, nobody wants to click Rachaad White, and Bucky feels like way sexier.
Yep. Yeah, exactly right. So I do think that we could see a little bit of a, little bit of a difference in ownership there. And I think probably White comes in a little bit lower on. So I guess I would rather go there, but I don't feel that strongly about it. Do you like, are you going to much of the Bucks?
No, but it's so shout out Donnie says Rick Stroud, Bucks beat writer, says Evans has no limitations. He actually is the guy who's really standing out to me from a tournament perspective, but I had some of the same, like I'm also weary of these Evans it's like a borderline Jalen Waddle-esque like injury type guy that's so frustrating to watch when you put him in your line. You're just waiting for grabbing the back of the hammy, on some play. And first game back against Tommy DeVito, I think he may have no limitations technically, but I would be shocked if he's just like fully loaded up with all the snaps and all the targets. I also think part of their emergence into or kind of continued excellence, I guess I should say, on offense is a little bit of a shift in how they're playing offense. They're a very quick passing game, short, low ADOT passing game using their running backs and formerly Chris Godwin, but now Cade Otton and the Sterling Shepherds of the world. Mike Evans is kind of a weird fit with that. It's not that he can't be amazing. I think he probably will have some really good games down the stretch. I generally am the opposite of the wait and see it kind of guy, but I kind of want to wait and see it a little bit with Mike Evans. So it's probably the running backs or Otton for me. I just like other tight ends better than Otton, and the running backs are fine. I don't have any strong take, even though I theoretically should probably like them. If you're doing any of this, what about the Giants side? Looks like Malik Neighbors is officially in, and of course, Tommy DeVito starting, Daniel Jones getting ready to go to a different NFL team probably tomorrow. And the Bucs have been pretty bad on defense. They do get Jamel Dean back, but they lost, I forget their nickel back. Anyway, interesting spot. And normally, again, on a different week, we'd be like, dude, Tommy DeVito sucks, but $4,000 against the Bucs. Like I might need to do this. Are you doing anything with the Giants or a min-priced quarterback here?
I think I have the most interest in Tyrone Tracy. I think that he's really good. We've seen him put up some big games. I don't really have concerns about the workload there. Like I've seen some people bring up like, oh well, he had that fumble. Maybe they bring in Devin Singletary and like get Devin Singletary going. I don't really see why they would go to Devin Singletary. Like this is one fumble. Like I think they're more likely to actually just be like, all right, let's get him going again. Our rookie who's been like dynamic. Let's get him going again. And they're not really playing for anything at this point other than like give the fan base hope, which Tyrone Tracy I think embodies that hope. So I think Tyrone Tracy looks great. It's funny. Talked about this with Scott Barrett yesterday. Like he's a former wide receiver, and then they just like rarely target him. He has like one good game through the air so far this year. I'm still hopeful that it's going to happen at some point. But even the route participation is like sub 40%. So even that is not like that great. But who knows? Maybe Tommy DeVito checks it down a little bit more, gets a little bit more involved in the passing game. So Tyrone Tracy for me would be the player I'm most interested in from the Giants. You can go to DeVito because he is min priced. I'm not super excited about it. He had like a 7-yard rushing game one time last year. So he has shown a little bit of rushing upside. I think you can. If I play DeVito, I would be inclined to throw Malik Neighbors in there. I don't think you necessarily have to, but I always like to stack. So I think I would prefer to have Neighbors in there in a Tommy DeVito lineup. But man, I'm not super excited about playing the Giants passing game. Are you going to any of that?
No, and as somebody in the chat mentioned, Erik loves his cheap Panthers wide receivers, or I do. I love my cheap awful wide receiver. Like if there's a wide receiver who is going to run routes and I can convince myself is not going to be unemployed in 2 months, I love those guys, and I love these kinds of situations with the Giants where like I've played the Daniel Jones neighbor stack several times this year. It worked really well to start. Like the first month was awesome.
Yeah,
it's not been so good. It's not been so good since then, but when people are unwilling to buy into these situations, that's when, right? Like the Lions thing last week, it's like, we all think they're going to score a boatload of points and nobody's playing these guys. It's kind of like the opposite where when look, the Bucs are a pretty good matchup. We all think the Bucs are going to score points. Got a $4,000 quarterback. Like he can't be worse than Daniel Jones. It's like like he may not be better, which isn't good. We don't want that, but he can't be worse. He runs a little bit. I'm more so, again, like you said, interested in DeVito and what that could unlock for like a lineup. So that's my struggle is I would probably play him with Neighbors. I was just trying to look up a unique way to play it. I think could be with someone like Theo Johnson. Play him as a punt tight end, pivot off of Schoonmaker. Just a total right. If he catches the touchdown is really all you're hoping for, but 4 targets in the last 3 weeks for Theo Johnson. Not anything super special, but you mentioned, like post by rookie bump and those kinds of things. I think Theo could just like kind of continue to take over the tight end role, which he kind of already did, but just get a little bit better. Like you said, showing some hope with some rookies. I think that's, I don't want to say preferred over Lindsey Neighbors, but an interesting way to play it. Just a unique structure.
Yeah. No issue with that for sure.
All right. Speaking of that, let's cover Schoonmaker really quickly. Jake Ferguson out with a concussion, and let me filter down to tight ends. Travis Kelce actually projecting really highly owned, followed by Hunter Henry, Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, and then getting down to Schoonmaker at 2,500. I would be a little surprised. I don't know about you if Schoonmaker's not a little bit higher owned, but what are you doing kind of generally at tight end and with a potentially double-digit target Schoonmaker based on the last couple times we've seen him play? Is he a priority to you, or more so just if I need the punt?
I don't know that I'd call him necessarily a priority because if he did come in at I'm saying 8.5% projected ownership, if he did come in there, I would call him a priority. But I think I'm with you that just like people are going to want to just go to the $2,500 tight end, and every show is like talking about how great of a play he is. So I think he comes in a bit higher than 8.5%. At which point, like I do think last week was an outlier. The 10 targets on like 48% route participation. That's just kind of you just can't really generally expect that. But talented tight end at 2,500. Maybe they have the backup connection, Cooper Rush with Luke Schoonmaker. I guess there's that going for them. I think he's a very, very strong play. It really is dependent on like how much ownership ends up there. And I do think that there are other tight ends that I like. So I don't think I'm going to be jamming him into like half my lineups, but I'll definitely be over the 8.5% that the field is currently projected for. I do think that he is a pretty strong play. What are you doing with Schoonmaker?
I really like. I mean, it's similar type thing where on most weeks, this $2,500 tight end would be like, I mean, 1,000,000%. Davis Allen was like 1,000,000% owned. He's worse. We didn't have this level of confidence in his role. Now, I forget. I always confuse Spanford with Ford Wheaton, Bryce Ford Wheaton, and Brevin Spanford, I think is the anyway. Spanford, the other tight end, has me just a little queasy because in the last time Ferguson missed some time, it was all Schoonmaker. Like that's kind of what Dallas likes to do, is wheels up on one tight end one. It wasn't so much that this past game. I don't want to buy too much into that, but similar to the Giants, I mean, what are the Cowboys playing for? Like,
right.
they could mix and match some of these guys. So I'm not sure you're going to get the route, like you said, the route participation that you're maybe hoping for, but you're also still probably going to get plenty of targets for 2,500. So if he just gets his 7, right? If you get 7 targets, he catches 5 or 6 of them, maybe you fall in the end zone. Who knows? I like him quite a bit. But what other tight ends? We mentioned Trey McBride. We briefly talked about the Chiefs with Travis Kelce. I actually kind of like the wide receivers on the Chiefs a little bit better than Travis Kelce. Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith up there off of Jonnu. Poor Jonnu puts up the nuclear game and gets buried by Taysom Hill.
That's
on
right.
the back page. Yeah, that was brutal. Zach Ertz, TJ Hawkinson, any of those guys of particular interest to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you that I generally prefer the receivers for the Chiefs just because they're coming in much lower owned. I still like Kelce. Like, I think Kelce looks pretty great at 5,800 too. So I will have a good amount of Kelce. Hunter Henry looks fine to me. Like the ownership is, I probably come in later than the ownership that we're projecting for Hunter Henry, but I do think that he's just a strong play, probably the best pass catching option on the Patriots. So totally fine going there. I love Trey McBride. I mean, I said I prefer Marvin Harrison if I have to just play one stack of the Cardinals, but I do still, I'm going to be well overweight on 10% Trey McBride. Also, I think he looks fantastic. Obviously Brock Bowers is a strong play. It's just he gets targeted quite a bit. I think we might see Patrick Surtain on Jacoby Myers, which could just open things up for Brock Bowers even more, coming in at single digit ownership. So yeah, I think that he is a pretty strong play, but just kind of expensive, obviously. Jonnu, like you said, strong play. Revenge game, of course. I think that's a lot of revenge in Jonnu's heart. So clearly important there. But
I'm sure he feels really bad about all that money they paid him to stand on the sidelines.
Yeah, exactly. But I think he has a good enough role, and he's been doing really well with Tua. So and he's not that expensive. So I think that he looks totally fine. Zach Ertz probably only in game stacks for me. I'm not like super excited to play Zach Ertz. I don't think he has Omega upside, but like he's pretty consistently like seeing some targets, running a lot of routes. So I think Zach Ertz is a fine, unexciting play. TJ Hawkinson, I don't know. I think he's cheap enough that like, $4,200 TJ Hawkinson stands out as a pretty good value, but also really, really tough matchup against the Bears. So I'm not like overly excited to get there. I think it's just kind of a play. I do think Tucker Kraft is pretty interesting. No, as you said, we'll talk about no Nick Bosa. Like that obviously hurts the Niners defense quite a bit. Tucker Kraft, for a while was looking like he was going to break out and be like a star tight end. Hasn't really happened, but he's only 3,900, not getting much ownership. So I think he's a pretty strong contrarian play. Sam Laporta, just 4,300. If I had told you last year or like this summer, Sam Laporta is going to be 4,300 fully healthy in week 12 and nobody's going to want to play him.
Not owned.
Can you even imagine? But I think that he is like at 4,300. I think that he is pretty interesting. Like I'll have more than 3%, I guess is how I would leave that. Like your call on Theo Johnson, obviously Kate Otten is an interesting conversation point, I guess, at the very least, just because I guess we have a beat writer saying that Evans is going to be a full go. The latest from Todd Bowles on whether he'll be on a pitch count, he said we'll play him as long as he's healthy. So this is a quote I didn't give a lot of justice to earlier. He said we'll play him as long as he's healthy and fresh and needs to be in there, but we'll get him out when we have to. So like I guess as long as he's healthy and fresh and needs to be in there. So maybe that means as long as the game is close, he'll be fine. I don't know. But if there are any limitations on Mike Evans or like, I guess it would have to be pretty significant to have much interest in Kate Otten. So maybe I'm talking myself out of Kate Otten because it does sound like Mike Evans is more healthy than not. And I don't know. I don't think he's a particularly strong play.
Isn't there also a world still where like, it's kind of like I'm trying to think of a recent example of like, you kind of can't put the and this is a bad comp. You kind of can't put the Ferrari back in the garage with like Kate Otten. Like, I'm not trying to say he's
True.
But frankly, he's been pretty damn awesome.
He has been.
So like, it's not that big of an exaggeration. It's kind of like, man, no Chris Godwin, this dude, and obviously there was no Evans, and he just steps up and he's the focal point of the whole passing offense. Do you really put him back in the box and just like, all right, go back to your 4 targets a game or whatever?
That's a totally fair point. Like he's been very good. So yeah, I mean, 5,500. I think he's fine. Not like a huge priority for me, but like, yeah, I think I'm with you that he's at least a fine play. The only other tight end that I would throw out there is Noah Gray. Just like last week was like ran a lot of routes. So it was like very involved. And then the coach speak actually after that was really strong. Like they were saying after that game, actually I have it in front of me here. Let's Matt Nagy on Noah Gray said Noah Gray has really evolved his details, his practice habits, his in-game adjustments, his making plays when given a chance. He's Mr. Consistent. I think it's very valuable. He's probably one of the most underrated and underappreciated guys. He transfers what he does in practice to the game, et cetera, just like really positive stuff on Noah Gray. And like they gave him that rep participation last week. So I'm like, maybe it is kind of time to play Noah Gray at 3,100, nobody on him in an ideal matchup. So he's one that I'm like more and more considering going to a little bit there.
Man, you're not kidding. So just quickly, I just pulled up snaps because it's quicker and easier to pull up. Obviously, Mahomes and the linemen play every snap, right? On offense. Travis Kelce is the next highest offensive skill player from a snap perspective at 80%, and Noah Gray, number 2 at 76%. So I actually hadn't looked at these snaps. Slightly concerning for old DeAndre Hopkins, despite in a loss, he's only out there for what they're like, okay, this is the obvious passing play. Nuke, go out there and run a route. Obviously, they're playing a bunch of two tight end stuff, and then you're getting more than half the snaps to Justin Watson, more than half the snaps to Xavier Worthy. So interesting. Very interesting. I bring all this up to say I think the cheap tight ends are pretty good this week. Actually, like I think Theo is more on most weeks. Again, we're playing Davis Allen and these. I played AJ Barner last week. Okay, I ended up off of Taysom Hill to take my 2 catches for 12 yards for AJ Barner or whatever. Like I think I like to buy into the Noah Gray type situations where it's like, well, what's the worst that happens? He's super cheap. Okay, no big deal. But the best that happens is he's a full-time player on the Kansas City Chiefs, like earning real volume against the Panthers. Like, yeah, dude, sign me up for that. At what is he going to be?
Sub 1%. Sub 1%.
Yeah. So that's a GPP flannel take for you, right?
Very much so. Yeah, just GPP.
Some Noah Gray. Some good questions here. I want to start to get to multiple different about the Broncos and leading the witness, but Shannon says she asked about Javonte and just generally the Broncos, I think, but the running backs in particular. And she says, knowing Denver, we'll go back to Audric Estime this week after Javonte takes over the backfield last week. But what do you think about the Broncos in a pretty good spot? But other than Cortland Sutton, it's like, what do we do with the Broncos?
I'm not super interested. Like, I can't tell. Like, it almost feels like a leak how little interest I have in playing the Broncos, because I think it is partially just like I'm so sick of this situation. Like, I just can't do it anymore with you, Sean Payton. So I think that I might be wrong about this, but it's just so hard to project. Like, looked like Audric Estime was taking over the backfield 2 weeks ago. We got all excited about him, played him at a cheap salary, and then nope, it's Javonte Williams last week. And I think it could, like she said, like Shannon said, just as easily flip back to Audric Estime this week. And neither of them is min price. Like, they're both like fairly cheap, but not like so cheap that I'm enthusiastically playing them. The matchup is like fine, not great. I think that if they were playing the Panthers, I would feel obligated to like find an angle and force one in. I don't think it's that good of a matchup. So I think I'm okay with just not playing either of them. And I think that's probably the route I take. I think if I were to play one, it would be Javonte, and just like hope, because he's more involved in the passing game. So like he has more upside to put up fantasy points that you want. Whereas Estime, unless he has 20 carry upside, like I have Estime is just not going to get there, I think. So I think that if I were to play one, it would be Javonte Williams, but I think I'd probably go to neither of them. How about you?
I tagged Javonte in, and first of all, Shannon, I apologize. Shannon is a male, and I said she said so. Please, my apologies. I won't forget moving forward. But I tagged Javonte earlier in the week. I'm still like so torn on it because again, it's one of those situations where good matchup. It wasn't just like, oh, I know the end box score looks like, oh, this is more like a split or whatever. This was Javonte's backfield until this puppy was over. Estimate had one catch for -2 yards in the first half, I believe. I want to say maybe one carry for 0. He basically didn't play. But then the interesting thing was also that historically we've had like, okay, we're going to get Jaleel McLaughlin and we're going to get, and it was really just Javonte Williams backfield in the first half. And so, like I said, could easily be the Sean Payton trickery, but if no one else is buying into it, right, everybody's going to pay the $500 more for Kareem Hunt, and I get Javonte Williams, who is better at football and also in a pretty good spot. I just think he's in play. Like I said, I was pretty high on him, Wednesday or whatever when we start doing all of our stuff, and I've cooled. But it's not really his fault. It's kind of it's just some other guys in roster construction type things have popped up. Couple more. Here's another one. We really want to get into the drags of the cheap running backs on the opposite side of Javonte Williams in that game. There are no running backs on the Las Vegas Raiders, no normal running backs healthy. So we have a potential Ameer Abdullah RB1 season for the Raiders. He is 4,300 on DraftKings, and his best skill set is that of a pass catcher. What do you think about Ameer Abdullah, as a punt, slightly contrarian running back option?
He's another one that, like, I think he's just going to get higher owned than what we're seeing. Like he's being projected for sub 2% ownership. If he was going to be sub 2% ownership, I do have a lot of interest at sub 2% Ameer Abdullah. My guess will be that he comes in more like 8%, gets a little bit higher, at which point I think he's a fine play. So I think I do like some Ameer Abdullah. Like, I'm not super excited about it. I think of him as being like a really strong pass catching back, but he hasn't really even done that so far this year. I think that with some playing time, I think that he will. But it's a really tough matchup. So like, I'm not enthusiastically playing a lot of Ameer Abdullah, but also like if we turn the cards over and he has 6 receptions for 40 yards and then just like a little bit of work on the ground, he's going to look pretty good. So I think that he's a reasonable play. Not a super enthusiastic play for me. I think part of it also part of the struggle, the reason I can't get overly enthusiastic about it, is how many running backs we have in that like 5 to 6K range that just like look really good. And I'd rather just, for the most part, mix and match those rather than playing 20% Ameer Abdullah in a really tough matchup. So I think that I'll get above 2%. And if he does come in at sub 2% and I have 5%, I'll feel great about that. And if he does come in at 8% and I have 5%, I think I'll feel great about that too. So I think my goal is like right around 5% Ameer Abdullah. How about you?
I like him. Again, I think my sentiment is the exact same as you. If he's really going to be 1 or 2%, I think he's a pretty damn good play. Another thing, like from the very intro that we talked about that I like to do on some of these slates is oftentimes, so Jacoby Myers is going to get quite a bit of ownership because he just projects too well to be $5,100. But it's also Jacoby Myers. Like, if Jacoby Myers beats me, kind of a Najee Harris type situation for me. He's a little better than that, but you get the point. Also, brutal matchup, I think, particularly, at least for a ceiling game. Like, I think he had like 6 for 70 or something like that in the last game against the Broncos. But like with Surtain, and this is a bad offense, Brock Bowers is the priority anyway. I just don't really want to do it with Jacoby Myers. So what's another way, to leverage off of that? If all my opponents are going to have Jacoby Myers, I can do, well, of course, Brock Bowers, but also this 4,300, like, he benefits from this game script just as much as Jacoby Myers does and doesn't have a bad matchup. The chat mentioning that the Broncos are really bad against pass catching running backs. I think he's a pretty strong tournament play, but I'm not going to like get out over my skis because of what you said, what I want to talk about next. There's a lot of running backs I like. Just quickly off the top, going by projected ownership again. Kareem Hunt at 5,700 on DraftKings. Devon Achane, we haven't talked about yet, and the Dolphins looking pretty good today. Brian Robinson, we haven't really talked about Washington, and they look good today at 5,600. Brian Robinson, Ken Walker, who we did talk about, James Conner, Joe Mixon, I know is expensive, but apparently is just the reincarnation of Bo Jackson back there for Houston against the lowly Titans, right? Christian McCaffrey, who we just don't care about anymore. There's a lot of good plays. Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard with no Tyjae Spears. There's so many guys at running back. That's the difficulty. Where are you prioritizing your running back plays if it's not the Abdullahs of the world?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm probably going to eat a lot of the Kareem Hunt chalk. Like, I'm not going to get overweight to 33%, I don't think, but like, I think I'm probably going to get close, like 25-30% Kareem Hunt. Like, I think that the ownership is probably about right on Hunt, just given the matchup with the Panthers. There are ways for it to fail, and I'm going to be playing some of those like leverage on Kareem Hunt, Mahomes stacks, but also I will have a fair amount of 5,700 Kareem Hunt. Just such a great matchup. The role is too good for this matchup, and the price is too low. HN has been awesome in games with Tua Tagovailoa, like 23.7 PPR fantasy points per game. In games with Tua Tagovailoa. Erik didn't say anything. He just left, by the way. He didn't say a single thing about leaving. HN 7,500. The price is right. HN's role has been awesome for the Dolphins. I'm into it. I'm going to play a good amount of HN. I don't know if I'll get to the 26% that the field is getting there, but I think that he's a pretty clearly strong play. Brian Robinson Jr. makes a ton of sense. He's 5,600. He's going against a Dallas defense that is terrible against the run. And there's like a 10-point spread in this game. So it's just like the game script is perfect for Brian Robinson. I think he looks great. I've just been working my way down the list. And I told them that you didn't say anything before leaving.
I heard you, you asshole.
Kenneth Walker, I mean, that's a game environment we're leaning into, involved in the passing game. He's only 6,900. The price, I think, is still too low for his recent role with the passing game involvement. So I think he looks great. James Conner on the other side. I don't know. Maybe we have some concerns about Trey Benson earning more of a role there. So that's the one knock on James Conner. But like, this is a team with playoff aspirations. So I think James Conner is still going to be generally the focal point there. Yeah. I think that I am going to be soft fading Joe Mixon. Like, I'm sure I'll have a little bit, but like, I don't know. He's so expensive, and there are so many cheap running backs that I think that I will be a little bit light there. McCaffrey, I've just been working my way down, so maybe I should focus on some of my favorites. I'll just finish. McCaffrey, I think, looks fine at like 18.5%, probably a little bit higher than I'd like to be, but I don't know. The role is so good for McCaffrey. I think even with non-great quarterback, he probably gets
win.
There. Yeah,
San Francisco must. It's
true.
It's over
Good
today
point.
if they don't win.
Is it officially?
They're already at my other at Spike Week. The playoff best ball is a huge thing. We do our own sims for the playoffs, and we put not just probability to make the playoffs, but like every seed, every possible matchup. We try to play all the permutations just to see. They're all right now like 22% to make the playoffs, period. Because I don't know if anybody's looked. The Niners schedule down the stretch is brutal. They play basically all the best teams in the NFL, give or take, starting today in Green Bay, which is rough. So like, I think like if they lose, we could be talking about something very different for CMC, Debo, Kittle, etc. down the stretch. But today, like, those dudes aren't leaving the field, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I think that you're right about that. So, I mean, the price is so expensive that it's still not like a priority for me, but I'll definitely get to some McCaffrey.
Mixon or CMC if you're spending.
I think CMC. I think there's just like the passing game involvement. It really, kind of a tough matchup with Tennessee for Joe Mixon. So I think it probably would be CMC for me. I don't feel like super strongly about it. Do you have a preference?
I keep going back and forth. I never should have looked at this, by the way. Don't do the extra research when it's going to confuse your head, I guess is what I'm saying. Tennessee has been historically like the easiest team to fade running backs against for years and years and years, basically since the Vrabel era started. It's just what they did. They brought in run-stuffing defensive linemen and a strong front seven. They stopped the run, but you could throw on them. And which was a genius idea to play in the AFC against Mahomes and Allen and Lamar and Burrow. Yeah. But
which is why they continue crushing.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Why we're talking about the 2-8 Titans or whatever it is. But now last week, Minnesota didn't have a bunch of success, but the Chargers ran for 145 yards. The Patriots ran for over 100 yards. Now, there's a little bit of Herbert and May in there, right? But it's not, 164 rushing yards for the Lions. Now, again, that's the Lions, but the Texans have been awesome running the ball. So I'm really, really torn. Green Bay, again, granted, Malik Willis was the quarterback in there, but it's like, so maybe the quarterback thing is what we're CJ Stroud's going to take his rushing overs, I guess, is what we're talking about. But I'm just like really, really torn on it. I don't want to prioritize 8K Mixon in particular because there's a $7,600 teammate of his that I am quite high on in Nico Collins. Just wanted to bring him up because we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about one of my favorite wide receiver plays on the slate. I just think it's kind of straightforward. Titans pass defense bad. No L'Jarius Sneed, even worse. No Stephon Diggs. Nico going to play a lot more than he played last week. And Nico Collins, good. Really, really, really good at football. Took the opening play 80 yards to the crib last week, and it got called back on a moronic penalty by Laramie Tunsil. I think we got blow-up games coming for Nico Collins without Diggs here down the stretch. Is it going to happen today? I don't know, but it's about as good a spot as you can get.
100% with you. Not getting a ton of ownership there, just 12%. Like, I think if that touchdown just counted, we would see Nico Collins at 22% ownership. Like, I think that just that one play coming back drastically reduces the ownership.
Agreed.
Just a really, really good football player. Coming in at just like 12% projected ownership. No L'Jarius Sneed, like you said, helps out quite a bit. So yeah, I'm with you on Nico Collins. I think that he is a star, and I think that this is as good a bet as any to be the week that he completely blows up. So yeah, definitely with you there.
Anything else in that game? Just mixing Nico, no Schultz or Tank or anything like that for you, and any Titans? I guess Calvin Ridley I think is mildly interesting. If you want to, I don't think I'm stacking the Texans ever, but if you wanted to put Ridley on, right, Nico does break the long touchdown. Good for Calvin Ridley. I think he's interesting. I don't think Nick Westbrook-Akine is going to catch a 99-yard touchdown every week. So, but he does keep scoring fantasy points. I mean, there's crazier things, I guess, but Calvin Ridley, I think, jumps out just a little bit as a tournament play.
Yeah, I think Calvin Ridley is a totally fine, like probably the one receiver. I mean, definitely the only receiver on that team that I get to. I think Ridley's fine. I think Pollard is like sort of interesting also. Right. Just with no Tyjae Spears. Let's see, can I quickly pull up my note here on Pollard? Yeah, here it is. In 3 games with Tyjae Spears out from weeks 7 through 9, Tony Pollard had 64 carries and 13 targets on 59% route participation. So just like an awesome role in those weeks with no Tyjae Spears. And I think we can probably count on, expect that to be kind of the role going forward when Tyjae Spears is out. So not a great matchup, like actually a really pretty tough matchup with the Texans. Yep. But I think the price tag is relatively low for a player with that involvement. So I think Pollard very much in play, but I think those are the only 2 that I really have any interest in from the Titans. On the Texan side, like you said, Nico Collins looks great. Joe Mixon is fine. I don't think I'm going to get to any Tank Dell or Dalton Schultz. Like, I'm sort of intrigued, but not enough to, I don't think, really get there.
I want to. So what I love about this game, I can't believe we're talking this much about Texans, but what I love about this game and a lot of these games in general that we end up targeting, it may not be the sexiest game, but I know where the ball is going, right? Like Nico Collins is going to get his, Joe Mixon is going to get his. Tank, to a lesser degree, unfortunately, is the issue that I run into with Tank Dell. I'm still holding on a little bit to my priors of how good he is, but I think by this time of the season, maybe we should adjust them. Maybe it's the injury. I don't know. Maybe he's just not. Maybe it'll take another year for him to get back to being what he is, or maybe that was a little bit of a flash in the pan. I have no idea, but I'm still intrigued by it. Like, I am intrigued by like a Stroud double, because on the Titans side, like you said, I got a workhorse back for a cheap price in Pollard, even though the match was bad, but he's a really good receiver. And then I got Calvin Ridley, who's like going to get double-digit targets in just about any game for the Titans, especially if they're losing. So it's nice to have a really, really clean game stack where I know who to play. And so even if it doesn't totally blow up, at least I'm like consuming most of the points a lot of the time. So in play, I guess I would put it. Another one I want to bring up. We got a couple of questions on, and we talked about Devon Achane just really, really briefly, and you discussed them while I stepped away for 2 seconds. But last week, a call that also got home that we liked quite a bit was the Rams passing game. The Patriots defense, unless they're playing Caleb Williams and the Bears, bad, very, very, very bad. And I don't know that Mike McDaniel has unlocked this offense just yet, but I would sure like to find out against the New England Patriots. What do you think about this game overall? But, we like Achane, but do we like getting to the Dolphins passing game?
Is this a noon game? Did we get news on Christian Gonzalez? Not that it totally changes that much for me, but it's definitely an easier matchup if Christian Gonzalez is out.
Let's see. He is active.
Okay. So that hurts a little bit, but not enough to take me. It was going to be completely wheels up for Tyreek Hill. It's still wheels up for Tyreek Hill. I just think Tyreek Hill has not really gotten there yet, but a really strong role with Tua in 6 games with Tua, 43 targets on 75% route participation. I don't know what to make of the wrist with Tyreek Hill, if I should be docking him for it, because he has not been great this year, but I'm going back to it against a bad defense and a low price tag and not crazy high ownership. I have a lot of interest in Tyreek Hill. What do we have the projected ownership at? 14.5%. I think I'll be over that number for sure at 72. I think Tyreek Hill looks great. Achane in games with Tua also has been awesome. I said this number already earlier, but in 6 games with Tua Tagovailoa, 83 carries and 38 targets in 6 games on 52.7% route participation. So more than 6 targets per game with Tua, averaging 23.7 PPR fantasy points. If you're playing on FanDuel, 20.6 half PPR fantasy points in those games. Just totally awesome. So those 2 are my favorites on the Dolphins. I'll get to some Jonnu, 32 targets in 6 games with Tua on 61.2% route participation. He's been a pretty strong play recently. I think even Tua himself at 5,800, the price is low enough. Not a lot of people going there. I don't think I told you this yet, Erik. Last week we talked a lot about the Browns, and I talked about Jerry Jeudy was my number 2 after David Njoku, I believe was my number 2 target there, and I was super into it. Was planning on playing a lot, and then just didn't give myself enough time. Ended up with just 5% Jerry Jeudy, and also this is why I brought it up.
Perfect call.
I made a lineup that was Jameis Winston, David Njoku, and Jerry Jeudy, and it put up 170 some fantasy points. I think this is going to be my 555 team. It was the rare week I decided to play the 555, made the lineup, and then I pivoted to Tua with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and that just absolutely.
No.
So I would have gone from at least tripling my money to to not cashing. So that was that's why I just had a flashback to that as we're talking about the Dolphins. But yeah, I think Tua, Achane look great, and I will go to Tyreek and Achane look great, and I'll go to a bit of Tua at 5,800 too. I think that would be my preferred way to play Tua stacks would be Hill and Achane probably, although Jonnu is a fine play also. And then on the other side, am I getting to any? I think Hunter Henry, again, we talked about earlier, looks totally fine to me, serviceable in a game stack at 4,000, looks decent. Kayshon Boutte, still 23 targets on 86.4% route participation over the past 4 games. So still nearly 6 targets per game over that span. And he's still 3,500. So I think he's still very viable salary relief play. And then Ramondre Stevenson, just a really, really strong role. 70 carries and 13 targets on 50.6% route participation over the past 4 games. And it's kind of a run funnel defense, at least in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. The Dolphins have allowed a lot of fantasy points to running backs relative to the passing game. How about you? Do you like anything from the Patriots or Dolphins?
I love the Dolphins, all of them. I'm also still so torn on Jalen Waddle. For me, I'm not going to get that cute, I don't think, in my lineup. I think I can accomplish what I want to accomplish with Tyreek and Achane. I do think you can stack 2 up with those guys. Half of Achane's fantasy value comes from his receiving stuff anyway. So you're kind of basically getting a glorified wide receiver there. I think Mostert is just cooked at this point. So we don't really have even any real workload concerns that we could possibly have with Achane. And I believe our colleague Jordan Vanek posted in his article this week talking about how much man coverage the Patriots play, which I don't know if you know, Tyreek Hill, not great guy to try to cover in man-to-man coverage.
Yeah, good luck.
If we ever see some, whether it's Christian Gonzalez or, you know, Mr. Incredible, it doesn't matter. You can't really cover this dude one-on-one. So I'm pretty into the Dolphins as like, all right, this is the game finally. And what I will say is I'm mostly just throwing kind of the data to the side here. Drake May's not a $5,500 fantasy quarterback. That's what I know. I don't know if it's going to come through this week. I know it kind of came through last week in a similarly not great spot against the Rams. I thought he looked awesome as a quarterback last week. He's running around. Maybe needs to slide a little bit better, but he's running around like a madman. He's making big time throws. If these receivers can ever catch the ball, I think he's going to have like a big game. And we know they're going to be losing a lot because that defense is bad. So kind of, like I said, throwing the data to the side, I'm actually pretty interested in Drake May. And again, because I have Tyreek and Achane and Jonnu on the other side that are such easy plays, I don't have to stack Drake May if I don't want to, but I have Boutte, I have Pop, I have Hunter Henry, Kendrick Bourne. You know, route participation was not awesome last week, but Jesus, man, they go to him when he's out there. Another 5 targets for 70 yards and a touchdown, similar price to Boutte. So yeah, I think that the Patriots are actually pretty interesting in this game. I mean, I don't fear the Dolphins defense, right? Like it's not ideal, but there are some defenses I'm like, nope. Not interested, and I just don't feel that way about them. So when I get a mispriced Drake May, he's definitely in my pool today. Go ahead. All right. Am I related to the Wolf of Wall Street? No, I don't think so. I don't know.
Is he saying you look like Leonardo DiCaprio? Is that what he's saying?
Mean, that's what I was about to say.
Quite the compliment.
Thank you, Hammer. But A, I don't look like Leonardo DiCaprio. And B, if you're saying I'm related to what's in it, Jordan, whatever, Belfort. If you're saying I'm actually like, I mean, cool life the guy lived, I guess. But you know, he did do a lot of sketchy things. So maybe I don't want to be related to that guy. Patriots receivers suck as a huge thing. I agree, Diego. We're right there with you, but it's good to look like Leo, not be like him. Yeah, let's go ahead and move on from that subject and on to some of you guys' questions, because I think that just let's talk San Fran Green Bay really quick and then hit some of these questions. Unless you really love Dallas, the Dallas Washington side. We talked about Brian Robinson. If you have anything on that one, feel free. But then what are you doing with no Brock Purdy? Right. But we talked a little CMC. Are you doing anything with that game? Is it a little bit more of a fade? What do you think about the Niners without Purdy?
Yeah. So starting with the Dallas Washington game. Yeah. We talked about Brian Robinson, loving him. I'm still going to go to a little bit of Jaden Daniels with Terry McLaurin, even though every football guy I talked to was like, no, Jaden Daniels is hurt. It's a better Noah Brown spot than it is a Terry McLaurin. All of that said, I think it's going to be low enough owned that I'm just going to take a few shots on Jaden Daniels with Terry McLaurin. I have a little bit of interest in CeeDee Lamb. A little bit. I'll play a little bit of Rico Dowdle. Just like I keep going back there. I'm gonna continue martingale Rico Dowdle. It's like they keep saying it's gonna be great, and then it's like it's fine. Like it's like they go away from him as soon as he's not doing well. But it's a great a good spot in the sense that Washington's been really bad against the run. So just like if he does get going, he's going for 6 yards per carry. I think they'd continue going back to Rico Dowdle. So a little bit of interest there, obviously, and CeeDee Lamb. We talked about Schoonmaker. In the San Francisco game, it's tough. Like I really loved this game. I loved Jawan Jennings. I liked Debo. I liked Kittle. With Purdy out, I can't really go. I don't think I'm going to get too much other than CMC and a little bit of I'm blanking on the quarterback's name. The new quarterback,
Brandon Allen.
I'll play a little bit of Brandon Allen. Like I think the case for Brandon Allen is quarterbacks in Kyle Shanahan's offense have been great. Like no matter who they throw in there, the quarterback, I think even Sam Darnold came in there for a brief spell and it was like, it was the first time we've seen Sam Darnold look good. So
probably got him this job.
It really, yeah. I think that's probably true. And we could see Brandon Allen, like clearly not the same pedigree as Sam Darnold, but like maybe it is just that kind of a system with such good weapons that like anybody can do it with Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle and the rest of the offense there. So yeah, I think Brandon Allen himself looks fine because he's 4,000 and has so many really strong weapons. I think I actually prefer him to Tommy DeVito. Like if we want to, compare the min price quarterbacks, I think I have the preference there only because I think the weapons are so good. The offense is so good that maybe he can get it done. Mostly just him and CMC for me are like, I don't think I'm going to a ton, if any, of Kittle, Juwan Jennings, Debo. They're all just like, I don't think this team is going to score a lot. So no real priorities there. The Green Bay side is interesting to me just because Nick Bosa is out, and it's like maybe the defense is like that much worse with Nick Bosa out, and like we have $4,600 Romeo Dobbs on DraftKings. Like that's just too cheap for his role on the team, I think, in what should be a pretty good offense. So some interest in Romeo Dobbs. Jaden Reed I think looks pretty good. I think like Christian Watson is playable. I don't know that I'll get too much there. And then I think I'll probably play a little bit of Jordan Love. I already talked about Tucker Kraft. Josh Jacobs, like totally fine play, not like a huge priority for me, but I'll get to a little bit. How about you?
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I think Jacobs might be my favorite. I don't know. Maybe I'm really, really overanalyzing this, but again, I was into Jaden Reed last week. And again, this week I felt even better. I'm like, oh, okay. Now we're going to get some real pushback. Not that they didn't get pushback last week, but they kind of got pushed around last week. They barely had the ball, and they mostly ran it with Jacobs when they did, which made sense against the Bears. I'm like, all right, now we got the 49ers are going to get a little back and forth. CMC Kittle's back, blah, blah, blah. And then and now Purdy's and now Purdy's out. So like, I like Jaden Reed. I don't love Jaden Reed. I think the Josh Jacobs role is just really good, right? Marshawn Lloyd is apparently him and Kendre Miller hold hand, Spider-Man meme, never healthy. And not that they're not going to use Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks, but it's mostly just Josh Jacobs backfield. So I think it's him. I do still have some interest in Juwan Jennings. Like if I'm playing Brandon Allen and I'm going to stack him, I think it would be with Juwan for me. But again, I don't think you have to. And he's not like he probably would have been a priority for me. Again, I might have had like Purdy, Juwan, Jaden Reed, who knows what else stacks before. I'm just a little more lukewarm. It's a fair point from Brad in the chat. People have been saying, I said it about probably Purdy myself. I definitely said it about Jimmy G, that he was just a Shanahan merchant. And if the quarterbacks are Shanahan merchants, it's like, well, we have one for $4,000 now. Can he be good enough to be a Shanahan merchant? Like, then he's a really good play at $4,000. I'm not sure that he is, but again, like similar to DeVito, it's like no one's playing these guys.
Right.
Nobody wants the Shanahan quarterback in a must-win game. The spot's not great, but he's 4,000. You don't need 30. You know what I mean? You just kind of need every other quarterback to not drop 35, and you get your 20, and you're good. So very much in play, I think, Brandon Allen for me. Squirrel. He says Squirrel likes Josh Jacobs this week. Yeah. Shout out Squirrel. Teddy says Achane had 2.2 points last time versus New England. Is that true? And if it is, I know Tua did not play in that game. I think that was a Huntley or a Skylar Thompson game. Let's see. Dontavian Wicks. Yes. Shout out Rob in the chat. Let's hit a couple questions before we get to our flag plants of the day. Chris asked about K-Dot, we discussed that. Make sure you go back. We discussed the Tampa Bay running backs. That's again, it's a very, very similar, Steven, but it seems everybody's probably a little more excited about Bucky, which does make me maybe a little more excited about Rachaad White. Goombas asked what about DJ Moore? Can DJ Moore be this week's Nick Westbrook-Akine and catch the bomb against the blitzing Minnesota Vikings? Yeah,
I'm not excited about playing any of the Bears offense, but I think all three of their pass catches are like in play in large field GPPs. DJ Moore clearly, like, he hasn't really shown it this year, but we know he has that big play upside. He has those like huge spike weeks, which again, haven't really seen it this year. But yes, I think DJ Moore very much in play. Rome Odunze, just like 4,800, I think is in play also. I think we've seen a little bit of a post-buy rookie bump for Rome Odunze, just the role. He's like I think he's seen the most targets in recent weeks. Let me see if I can find this quickly. My notes on
air yards for sure. I don't have the number in front of me, but he's definitely being targeted and being the one targeted downfield.
Yeah, so I think like Romo Dunze, I think those two are still like my preference. I think Keenan Allen has had a strong enough role that he is in play, but like I'm not excited about him. I guess I'm not excited about any of them, but I would rank Keenan Allen last of the group. I think Caleb is like borderline in play just because the stack
5,100.
they're all so cheap. Like it's 4,800 Odunze, 4,900 Keenan Allen, 5,500 more, 5,100 Caleb Williams in a rivalry. I mean, sort of rivals with the Vikings. We're not really rivals with the Bears, but like sort of a rivalry game. They're all super cheap. So yeah, I have some interest in going to the Bears. But if I had to rank them, I think it would be Odunze 1, DJ Moore 2 of those, and Keenan Allen 3. But I don't feel that strongly about it. But I think all are in play. Are you going to any of the Bears receivers?
I don't think so. I just call me biased. I did the Caleb experiment against the freaking Patriots, and it was the worst shit I've ever. Look, there is, expected value. Everybody, this is a plus EV play or whatever. Let me tell you what is a minus EV play for your mental expected value, and it is stacking. See, the dogs are already getting wound
they're
up.
Mad. Yeah,
they're like, don't you dare do that again. Don't you dare play Caleb Williams stats again. But before we start to get out of here, we got to give our flag plans. Will you go ahead while I tell these dudes to shut up?
Yeah. First of all, shout out to Eric's dogs. That was great. My flag plan, I think it's Kyler and DeAndre Hopkins, the stack I'm going to. The one other I would say is I do have a lot of interest in DeAndre Hopkins. I don't even know if I've brought him up, even as like a part-time player. Like he only ran like 50% of the routes last week. So it can't be. I'd be a lot more excited if he had run 75% of the routes last week. Like I have concerns there, but just such a great matchup. I think that they're going to have a pretty vanilla game plan. I think vanilla game plans for the Chiefs should involve DeAndre Hopkins. So my main flag plant there, Kyler and Marvin Harrison Jr. But then I just want to give a shout out to DeAndre Hopkins also.
I'm rattled, and shout out to the chat. Does Erik live in a kennel? I have two wild, crazy dogs. But yes, like I said, I'm a little rattled. But when I'm rattled, Neil, and it's time to flag plant, we go to arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL, and that is not an exaggeration. Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase are still a thing, but Nico Collins is making his way to the top here. Maybe the third best wide receiver in the NFL. He's very much up there, and he draws one of the best spots you could possibly get against this Titans potential pass funnel. I don't know if it is. I don't know that the Texans care about the pass funnel. Joe Mixon is Joe Mixon, but I just think Nico Collins is set to go totally scorched earth here down the stretch without Stephon Diggs as he gets healthy, and I want to be out in front of it because I think 7,600 for him in good spots is a beautiful price. And so I'm going to buy into Nico Collins before he explodes and he gets a lot more expensive. And you should hang with us before crunch time comes in, and we're going to all put together our flag plants that really crushed it last week, by the way. So let's see if we can keep that up here with the crunch time team. Just quickly, I gotta say, sorry, Matt, in the chat, but Jahan Dotson or and Neil telling him unregistered.
I mean, that's the correct. Like, unless he's talking about Showdown. And Showdown, I don't know, but yeah,
we're gonna get if I pass this to Chief now, and he goes, my flag plan is Eagle stacks with Jahan Dotson. We're going to have a real problem, but I'm sorry. That got me pretty good. Welcome, guys. Thank you. Polish us up with some good takes, some better stuff than what Neil and I had. Chief, get us going.
So first of all, let me just say that I think the real star of today's show was Erik's DFS dogs telling him, don't you dare play any Chicago Bears.
Neil asked about Caleb and the Bears, and they were like, motherfucker, we're trying to
unbelievable.
It's like that meme of like the guy behind the window. I forget what the movie's from, but the guy behind the window like yelling at himself, like, don't do it. Like Erik's dogs played that role of just like, don't do it, guys. No Bears.
Oh my God. That's a classic moment. Like, if the Bears flop today, like producer TJ, we got to crop this somehow and put this out into the atmosphere. That was awesome. Let me just say. Oh, go ahead, Neil. Well,
I just want to. I see Mabs in chat says, Priest, congrats on congrats to your boy on last night. I heard he was in the state championship. I was listening to your NBA show. Did they win?
They won.
Congrats.
They pulled it out. Listen, man, he got a big sack late in that game too, and thought he was in the NFL, kicking the door down.
He did the door kick down.
Huh?
That's amazing. That was my favorite celebration back in the
day. Yeah, he's
kicking
the door in, and I'm like, buddy, let's stop celebrating before you get us a penalty. Right. He plays D line, by the way. They won, man. So I was so proud of them. They had a really good season, and so ironically, they beat this team earlier in the year and had to see them again. I mean, their opponent Wilson Hall, they pulled out all the stops, trick plays, reverses, pass. They ran Philly special. I mean, listen, wow. they gave it everything, and the Philly special worked too. They didn't get a touchdown, but like they got enough yards. But the defense held up. They were able to close it out late. They won 24-21. Field goal kicker in a clutch 33-yarder like late in the game to seal it. So
that's awesome.
Shout out to Alex too, the field goal kicker in that game. But they won. On to NFL. Last week it was the Lions. I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm just going back to the Lions. Like, why? There's no reason for me. Now, they're expensive, but if you played the Lions last week, and shame on me for not putting Jared Goff in my stack. Like, I literally ran the running back. I ran Montgomery. I ran St. Brown and J-Mo and didn't run Goff. And I'm sitting here thinking, if I just ran Jared Goff in this stack, I might have taken it down. I put the Lions defense on the other side thinking Goff would throw for like 220 and 4 and not really get there. But similar situation going to Indianapolis, still on the fast track. I mean, I'm not reinventing the wheel. So the Lions are like my top stat, okay? Here's my sneaky stat. What if I told you I'm borderline going all in on the Giants offense? Give me DeVito, give me Tracy, give me Malik Neighbors, give me Malik Neighbors, who nobody wants to play now, but the targets are still there. Buccaneers have secretly been in shootouts. Hear me out.
Too bad.
Not interested in that. Buccaneers have secretly been in shootouts almost every game. That's true. And I'm not saying Tommy DeVito's great. I'm saying he's 6K on FanDuel. He's 4K on DraftKings. And I literally get to do everything else I want with him and Tracy, and I throw Neighbors in there. Load up on the Giants. Thank me later. That's my hot take for the week.
He was balancing his level of talent on his offense. Right. You know, he got the Lions and the Giants with Tommy DeVito. Brit, can you balance us?
I had to leave when I heard the Giants, guys. So I had to drop out.
Hey, listen,
I'm just messing with you, Chief. I did it to be funny.
Listen, I'm not here to be popular. I'm here to bring you the takes. I tell you what I'm doing, and guess what? When it works out, I look like a genius. When it doesn't, I look like an idiot. That's the job.
Neil took one of mine and Marvin Harrison for sure. Definitely someone you want to have in tournaments today. And to all the dog lovers out there, you need to cover your ears because Rome Odunze is a nice pivot off of all those 5K-ish wide receivers on DraftKings. He's cheap on FanDuel. Are we back to Jacoby Myers week? I don't know why we're all doing that. So I think Odunze might even have a little bit more upside than Jacoby Myers this week.
I love it. Dogs hate it. TJ, what do you got?
I don't have anything much prettier. I'm going to say Brandon Allen breaks the slate today. Ooh. I have about 30 lineups in the Millie Maker that are either Brandon Allen or Tommy DeVito today. Playing an absolute ton of the 4K QBs. I'm spending up for Nico Collins, for Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm playing Brandon Allen, Tommy DeVito, and Schoonmaker, and then whoever the hell else I want.
I love it. That would be like the chalk build on a normal weekend. You're like, it's a Galaxy Brain build this week. I find that to be kind of interesting. But we'll leave it to you guys. We'll be back next week. If you got more questions that we didn't get to, these three fine young gentlemen will take care of you. Chief, congrats to the boy, and Brit. Sorry that you have to listen to Chief tout all these crappy players.
You're mute, Chief.
Yeah,
my bad. Before you guys go, believe it or not, here's why this championship is special. It's the school's first championship.
That's awesome.
So literally made some history with that group. So I was
That's
super,
awesome.
super proud of those guys. Yep, first championship for the school.
That's amazing. All right, guys, enjoy the football. We'll see you.
All right, later, guys.
All right, guys, welcome to the end of Crunch Time here. I am Brit Devine, here with the Chief, here with producer and DFS extraordinaire player TJ as well. Welcome. We're going to talk some cash. We're going to talk some tournaments. I've got SimLabs pulled up. We'll get to that in just a few minutes. But happy to be on this, guys. We spent a lot of time talking. We're not going to get to any questions. I'm not going to get through the ad reads. We need to just jump right into this at quarterback. So let's just start getting right into it. Quarterback, I'm going to handle cash. A couple of thoughts for me today. Cash games, both DraftKings and FanDuel. Your number one option to me is probably going to be an Anthony Richardson. If you were looking for something else, I don't hate TJ's way of playing today. I don't mind one of the 4K quarterbacks. I think on most weeks we would like that a little bit more than this week. We don't have the Jamar Chase in the blow-up spot. We don't have prime CMC, but you can get to prime Joe Mixon. You can blast in all the high-priced running backs. You can get some of the high-priced wide receivers as well if you do that. And then maybe you could convince me maybe on a Geno Smith too. They like to pass a lot, but I'm firmly on Anthony Richardson at the quarterback position. For tournaments, TJ, do you want to expand on maybe your cheap quarterback takes? Why are you on these guys? And then Chief, I'll throw it to you in just a second.
Well, for Tommy DeVito, it's pretty quick, and I'll let Chief expand on that. It's basically just the rushing upside for him. But on the Brandon Allen side of things, credit to Rich Rebar, who really supplanted the idea in my head on the Pick Six podcast this week. But it doesn't really matter who the quarterback for the 49ers is, whether it's Purdy, Garoppolo, Darnold in his first game coming in, or Mullins coming in, CJ Beathard, whatever his name is, coming in. They're all really good, and the reason why is because they have a good offensive line. Trent Williams is playing today, or at least I saw he was expected to. I don't think we have the official word yet, but they're optimistic he's going to play. They have McCaffrey, they have Kittle, they have Debo, they have Jennings. They got a ton of really strong options, and so I think one of us at 4K could have a fine fantasy game for the 49ers today, but a serviceable NFL quarterback, he could walk into 2 or 3 touchdowns, and at 4K, that's going to do it for me today. So he's my highest owned. DeVito's number 2. Other stacks that I like today, I like a Tua stack quite a bit. Baker Mayfield, I'm getting to a ton of Bucky Irving, but I also like a Baker Mayfield stack in tournaments today. Getting to a little Jordan Love, little Mahomes, little Cooper Rush. No Goff stacks, but Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to be one of my highest owned plays today. I'm getting to a ton. I'm getting like little Nix, little Smith, little May, a one Murray team. But it's basically just like 1 or 2 teams of each of these guys in the Millie Maker, and then a whole bunch of Brandon Allen and Tommy DeVito.
All right, Chief, what are you doing in tournaments today? Basically, looking at SimLabs, if you do, Allen and DeVito are down here at the bottom of leverage, but that's because their projections are so low. And if TJ's right on their projections they should be a little bit higher, I think that would flip here. Basically, anything outside of Anthony Richardson is almost positive leverage because Richardson's drawing so much ownership. It looks like today. Where do you stand on Richardson, Will? And then what are some other guys? Are you on any of these guys up towards the top of the optimal minus projection row?
So in tournaments, I'm probably a little bit lower on Richardson than everybody else is, but like I said, that's just me. I'm definitely higher on DeVito than probably everybody. So I do like DeVito quite a bit today. Like I said, I know it sounds funny, but just go back and look at the Buccaneers game. I mean, it's a 23-20 game with San Francisco, but 30-24 with the Chiefs, 26-31 Falcons, 41-31 Buccaneers, 51-27 Saints, 36-30 Falcons again, 33-16 with the Eagles earlier. They did lose to the Broncos 26-7, and they beat the Lions 2016, but opening season with the Commanders 37-20. They won that game, but my point is there's a lot of points being scored in these Buccaneers games, which is why, while it sounds really crazy, I do like DeVito quite a bit in tournaments along with a few other Giants. I think one of my bigger tournament options here. It's a guy TJ covered. That's Tua Tagovailoa. We saw him have a nice game last week. Obviously, at home, gets a spot against New England. Has some weapons. Man, I wish Jalen Waddle would get back on track and at least get 6 or 7 targets a game and produce more. But even still, I think Tua's there. Geno's getting just as much ownership, at least in similar to projections to Richardson. But I do like him a bit more just because I do think he has more touchdown passing upside than Richardson does. So like him quite a bit. And then last but not least in tournaments, I like Bo Nix quite a bit here against Las Vegas today. Pairing him up with a couple of guys, but I don't think the Raiders are going to slow him down one bit. And at 6,300, he's a guy that we've seen produce down the stretch here almost against anybody. And so why can't he produce today against Las Vegas? Love him quite a bit. And obviously I'm playing Jared Goff because I like the Lions.
Yeah, I like the Knicks call. They're down a couple cornerbacks in Los Angeles. He's topping the optimal minus projection tab, which is a big thing if you're trying to look at playing tournaments here. And he is rushing upside. People are playing Sutton, but if you go with anybody else there, you're probably going to get a low-owned wide receiver. I think that is pretty interesting. And Chief, you convinced me. I bet the over. It was at 40.5 on that Giants game. So I went and got that on FanDuel while you were talking to me on that. And I want to get a note for that. I didn't get it up on Scores and Odds. But on DraftKings, I like really, I have many units on a 6-point teaser of the Lions and the Texans. If you wanted to go get on that, you cross the 7 and the 3 with both of those. Absolutely love that play. Again, didn't get that on Scores and Odds, but decided to fire on that this morning. TJ, anybody else in here? If you had to pick one other player that we didn't talk about, we didn't probably talk about 10 quarterbacks. I think you mentioned Kyler Murray a little bit. I think Jordan Love's always tough to pair with. If you're getting Nico Collins, any interest? Do you have CJ Stroud in there in those, or are you just playing Nico on his own?
No, just Nico on his own. The reason I'm getting some Mahomes is because at that price is because I'm willing to stack him up with 2 to 3 receivers.
Mm-hmm.
But for Stroud, Nico's the only one I like, and so that's why I'm not really playing any Stroud. And kind of the same reason I'm not getting too much Goff. I just want to get to either the running backs or a ton of St. Brown. I probably am going to make one as we speak right now, just to. Oh, there are no spots left in the Millie Maker, so maybe I'll adjust one of the lineups that I already have to get a Goff full stack in there since Laporta's so cheap too. But it's really just the cheapies for me. Like I'll play a couple stacks of each of these guys: Nick, Smith, May, Murray, Goff, Rush, Jordan Love, et cetera, Patrick Mahomes. But it's really just the cheap guys I'm going all in on.
All right, let's move to running back for cash games. Real quick thoughts on that. Kareem Hunt, both sites, probably one of your first clicks you're going to make today. Devin Achane, probably a second click, I think, on both sites. Maybe a little bit more difficult on FanDuel. I think Joe Mixon is probably getting slept on a little bit. Dude is a monster. Every time he plays a full game, big home favorites here like him to have a pretty big game. And then you've got a cheapie and maybe a Brian Robinson or a mid-tier play in James Conner, Kenneth Walker. I'm pretty much in agreement, but Hunt for sure. Achane or Joe Mixon are probably your next for me. And then probably one of these mid-tiers of Brian Robinson, Kenneth Walker, James Conner. Josh Jacobs on FanDuel fits into lineups pretty well over there as well at 7,600. So for tournaments, Chief, I'm going to throw this to you first here. We've got, you see this more with the wide receivers generally than the running backs, but the high-owned running backs are almost all coming up negative on SimLabs as players you would want to play today. You always see that in wide receivers, not always at the running back position. So out of all of these high-owned running backs, so Brian Robinson, Kareem Hunt, James, it's literally almost all of them. Do you have one you would be willing to take a stand on to not play? Maybe as much as the field's going to be playing today? And which one would you like the most?
Oh man, I think the one I like the most is Kareem Hunt, which is the one that everybody likes the most. But Brit, I really think he's obvious chalk, and I think he's good chalk. If that makes it like he's 5,700, he pretty much owns the backfield, has really good touchdown equity, anywhere near the goal line. He's not going to catch a lot of passes. He's had one game, I think, where he popped for like 7 catches, but that was just some random game where it just didn't come together for him. But all in all, he's still probably going to get 20 carries in this game, maybe one catch, and has upside for over 100 yards and a touchdown or two. So I really like him. If there was one guy, so that's the guy. If you said, hey, who are you hitting the lock button on? It's Kareem Hunt. If you said, hey, who's the guy that you take out? It probably is Brian Robinson. While I do like the matchup against the Cowboys, Walker, Connor, Mixon, all these other guys have so much more of a heavier workload than he does, if that makes any sense, Britt. Because Eckler's going to come in for, passing situations. He's going to get the catches. Eckler's not going to get, 10 carries. Eckler may get 2 or 3 carries, but he is going to be on the field. So Robinson's kind of more of just a rushing back with a split, where these other guys, Walker, Hunt, Connor, Mixon, that's their backfield. And so I think if there's one guy I said, hey, I don't mind getting off of, it's Robinson. The difference, though, is Robinson's 5,600 on DraftKings is much more valuable. So I do have him. But if you ask me if I had to get rid of one, it's definitely him.
All right. TG, what are your thoughts on the high-owned running backs, the guys with high projections, someone you're using more than the field, someone you're using less? And then do you have, any other guys you're really trying to jam in?
Achan's really the only spend up that I'm really focusing on today. I'm trying to get to as much Achan as I can. But it's Hunt, Achan, Robinson, and Bucky Irving. Those are my big four. I'm playing like 80% of each of them, maybe like closer to 100 for Hunt and 90 for Robinson, and then 70 each for Achan and Bucky. I'm trying to get to as much of them as I can. All my lineups are three running back lineups. I'm mixing in a couple players like Mixon, McCaffrey, Jacobs. I think I have one Javonte Williams lineup, one Amir Abdullah lineup, and then a couple Gibbs and Montgomery ones. But it's really the big four of McCaffrey, Bucky Irving, Brian Robinson, Kareem Hunt for me.
All right. And then, Will, I've got pulled up here the theoretical best optimal minus projection plays here based on the SimLabs here. Any one of these guys standing out to you, someone you'd want to be on?
I will have some Amir Abdullah because he's cheap. Obviously, I'm playing Tyrone Tracy because I like the Giants. I do like Josh Jacobs. I actually like a fair amount of these guys. If there was one that I feel like I had to play for me today, it's probably Tracy at 6K.
I like that whole top 7 of that group. I don't like anybody below Tracy, but I like all of them above.
Yeah, I'm in your group, TJ. I think you can play all these guys look reasonably good. Montgomery and Gibbs it's literally a 50-50 fantasy point split with them. You never know which one's going to get it, but one of them could have a big game. I think White, maybe I think I'm more on Bucky Irving than Rashad White, but White could certainly get there too, and nobody's actually playing him. Jacobs is probably the most, the workhorse bell cow role. That's the type of running back I generally want on my team, someone who's going to, see the ball 20 plus times, a high percentage of the time. I think Jacobs is good. And Tracy definitely. Tracy's just 2% owned, Chief. That seems like
I'm telling
someone you should be trying to get over on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely agree on the Tracy call. Like I said, I like the Giants in general. Now below there, I think if I had to go with one guy, it's probably Ramondre, like at 5,900. But I don't have a whole lot of Ramondre, but like that would probably be my next tier down out of the ones that we're like not as thrilled about. But I do think Ramondre at 5,900 is perfectly okay.
All right, let's go to wide receivers. TJ, I'm going to throw it to you because your tournament strategy today, I think what a lot of people are doing, they're using 3 of the mid to higher priced running backs, and that basically forces you to use 2, if not 3 of the 5K to 6,500 wide receivers in a lot of teams. It seems like you're elevating the wide receiver group to the expensive players. What does that look like in terms of the players? And then what do your rosters around that look like?
Yeah, I'm playing at least 2 expensive receivers in almost every single lineup. I like a few of my stacks that I made that are not the super cheap quarterback ones. You have to get the mid-tier, jam more of the mid-tier guys in there. But since I'm playing so much DeVito and so much Allen, I'm getting to at least 2 of these expensive guys in every lineup. So my 2 favorites are St. Brown and Nico Collins, getting to an absolute ton of them. St. Brown is number 1 for me. Nico Collins is number 2. After that, I'm spreading it pretty evenly. Justin Jefferson at low ownership, I'm going to be heavily overweight. Malik Neighbors, I'm pairing exclusive. I'm getting only in DeVito teams. I didn't get him in any Allen ones. I only got him in DeVito ones because I figured if Neighbors has a good game where he's optimal, DeVito is probably going to be outscoring Brandon Allen in that situation. CeeDee Lamb, I think like you can pair Lamb and Schoonmaker in the same lineup. We'll talk to that in a bit later, but I prefer not to. And so CeeDee Lamb, I am trying to get to. I think he's a great tournament play today, but I'm trying to get to him in lineups that I'm not playing Schoonmaker. I'm trying to get to him in lineups that I'm playing one of the other tight ends that I like today. Tyreek Hill, I'm getting in lineups that don't have Achane or are in full stacks with Tua Tagovailoa, Achane, and Jonnu Smith. I love Mike Evans for tournaments. I think he's probably going to come in higher than 1 or 2% owned, but if he's going to be sub 5% ownership, man, do I love Mike Evans today. Not supposed to be super restricted as long as this game stays somewhat close. I think he's a phenomenal tournament play. All of these guys 7K and up, I'm trying to get to in bunches. I'll be underweight on the rest of them. Cortland Sutton is the mid-tier guy that I have the most of today, but I'll be underweight on Myers. I like Jaden Reed in the mid-tier, and then I'm still playing Jawan Jennings in my Brandon Allen lineups. I don't think he's actually going to come in 12, 13% owned. I think it's going to be lower than that. I'm not playing him on his own, but since I'm playing so much Brandon Allen, I am still getting to some Jawan Jennings as well. I'm trying to avoid the super cheap tier of receivers unless they're in stacks. So like I have some Booty Bourne, Demario Douglas in stacks. I have some Darius Slayton in a stack. Maybe a Noah Brown team. I think I have Christian Watson in my Jordan Love team. But for the most part, I'm trying to avoid the cheap tier. I don't mind your Adunze call at all. I just hate the Chicago offense as a whole today, so I'm not getting there. But I do agree he's the top receiver to target in that offense, and it's a nice price tag for him. But I even have I have one Alec Pierce in an Anthony Richardson lineup right now.
Yeah, I could certainly see Pierce. If Richardson's going to be popular, it doesn't look like there's too much ownership on his receivers. Maybe a Pittman, maybe a Downs. They're approaching 10%. Would you have a preference of Downs, Pittman, or Alec Pierce of a Colts receiver?
It's switched it up. So like the way I did it is I'm playing Michael Pittman in one lineup that is my Goff stack. And then in my Anthony Richards stack, I have Downs and Pierce.
All right.
Downs is my favorite overall. But he's also tougher to get to. It's at over 6K. And so if I'm just choosing straight up between Pittman and Pierce, I think I probably lean Pittman, but it's a case for me of Pierce probably is the higher ceiling. Pittman probably is the higher floor.
All right, Chief, before I get to you, if any of you guys watching, first click the like button on YouTube. We would appreciate it. If you want access to SimLabs, to everything at RotoGrinders, you can get the RotoGrinders combo. It's all about value. It's the busiest time of the sports calendar. Perfect time for RotoGrinders combo. For limited time, you can get your first month of combo access for just $79.99. That's just $5 more than NBA just on its own. The NBA projections are great. The scores and odds team has been great with that too. But if you want, you see all these tools that we're using, you want access to all of that, go check it out. If you are a first-time user, there's a pretty good deal on it. Chief, all right, let's go. We talked to the high-priced wide receivers with TJ and what he's doing. I want to talk to you about the highest owned wide receivers because these are generally, all the years I did that Millionaire Maker article, highest owned wide receivers are pretty much always ones. 2 out of 3 historically used to fail. I haven't done it in a couple of years. I don't have any of the recent data. Which one of these guys is most likely to fall on his face today? Maybe even give me 2. Myers, Sutton, JSN, Ridley. We'll basically cut it off at those because this is what a lot of people are coming into on the builds. They need one of these 5 to low 6K wide receivers, if not 2 of them. Who's your favorite? Who would you be fading?
Well, man, my favorite Sutton, but that's because I've been on Sutton when nobody else has been on him, Brit. Like I've been on Sutton week after week after week.
You're a smart man. Now everyone's following you.
Yeah. So I'm not going to hop off now with a spot against Las Vegas. Him and Jacoby Myers pretty much have the same ownership or close to it. So I'm on the side with Sutton, who I think is in the better offense with the better quarterback. I guess if there's one guy out of the high tier, maybe Ridley is less likely to score a touchdown of some sort. I like Ridley. I like the price, but he's probably my odd man out here.
Mine's Myers, I think. So like Myers probably gonna get Patrick Surtain shadowing him. Now he did do good against Surtain in their first game, but Surtain's one of the best cornerbacks in the league. This is a big Brock Bowers game for me. So I think Myers, and I mean, we were all jumping onto Jacoby Myers last week because what incredible volume, can't miss. And we saw the floor in Jacoby Myers is very, very low. And this is a tough Denver defense. Myers is someone I would certainly be looking for. Does anyone have a take on Myers? It's just because he's 5,100. If he was 5,700, he would be well under half the ownership that he is right now. TJ, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, 100%. I agree. It's also going to be likely a very good game script for him. Like you said, he did well against Surtain last time. I think he is a great cash play, and I'm going to be underweight in tournaments. But if you have 5,100 remaining, like he probably is the best option. Especially nice because I find myself getting to so many early game spots in my lineups, and it is nice getting a Myers or a Sutton in there to get a little bit of that afternoon slate exposure. But I will probably be underweight on Myers and about even on Sutton.
Yeah, I think Myers, and I would agree probably Ridley, JSN, and Sutton for sure. Well, I'm with you on Sutton. Sutton's cash playable. I think your cash receivers, I didn't even really mention this. Probably Sutton, Ridley, I think is even cash viable. Jacoby Myers is fine. I think Odunze that's probably a specific take I have. If you're looking for these mid-tier wide receivers are good. JSN is if you're paying up for like 2 running backs and a tight end, you're probably maybe JSN's your highest price wide receiver, something like that. I think that plays around. I think the RotoGrinders Optimal. I think me and the RotoGrinders Optimal. This was maybe a half an hour ago. Prior on Lineup HQ. I think we had the exact same cash lineup. I don't always land on that, but it was nice to see me and the projections team also ended up on the same cash team today. JSN was in that one. Chief, any other specific wide receivers you're looking at today?
Well, I've already mentioned that I like the Giants. So clearly, I'm playing neighbors. I do really like Nico Collins today against Tennessee at 7,600. In terms of, I guess someone that maybe on the high end that's slightly off. He is getting pretty good ownership, but Amon-Ra St. Brown at 8,300, I like him. I feel like people may not be as interested in Justin Jefferson today. He's always got a shot at the big game. 8,100. I know it's in Chicago. Don't really care. Like him quite a bit. If we're getting down this mid tier, I do like Jameson Williams because I like the Lions today. DeAndre Hopkins, I feel like he had that one big game and nobody wants to play him. But I'm not afraid of the Carolina Panthers defense. He's 5,400. So I think this is a spot for him where nobody's kind of on him this week, Britt. This is probably the week he goes for sticks for 80 and 2, as an example. Even if he went for 6 for 80 and 1, like that's perfect at his price. It's going to be well over 20 fantasy points. So I like him. I don't think this is thin. I think it's let's call it different, not thin, but different. So it looks like everybody wants to play, or not everybody, but everybody's on like Sutton, but nobody wants to play Jaden Reed. Like Jaden Reed's 5,900. Like I think in terms of tournaments, like he's got just as much upside. He's got big playability. We just got to see it materialize. So Like him quite a bit for tournaments. Think he's a good alternate to Sutton in terms of kind of a pivot.
TJ, I brought up the optimal minus projected. Technically, the guys you'd want to have on your tournament teams today. Anyone popping out? This is CD someone you're on today, or are you on the Jefferson, Nico Collins, Noah Brown? In theory, we'll see if that ends up working out. But your boy Justin Jefferson's up here. The Mike Evans. Definitely not Wan'Dale Robinson. I don't know what he's doing on here. That's never a tournament winning play to me, specifically with neighbors playing. Is there anyone you see in here? I like to see Rome's up here. That's one of my favorite plays of the day. Chiefs Jaden Reed's popping up here. Anyone on here you particularly like and agree with the Sims?
Lamb, Jefferson, and Evans are three guys that I really like that are projecting for low ownership today. Evans is probably my favorite of this group. I do really like CeeDee Lamb, but because I'm getting so much Luke Schoonmaker, which we'll talk about at tight end, I won't be heavily overweight. I wish I had more, but I do have lots of Jefferson and lots of Mike Evans. And then I made a stack with Jaden Daniels that has both McLaurin and Noah Brown, since I'm playing like 90% Brian Robinson today.
All right,
let's just go to FanDuel call Brit before we move on. Brit, before we move, so I do think like the AJ Brown, the Puka Nacua, I think those guys are good on FanDuel today. Late game, not going to get as much ownership. I think those guys are great.
AJ Brown is probably my favorite wide receiver of the week. Without Devonta Smith, I mean this is an absolutely nuclear spot for AJ Brown.
Yeah. On FanDuel, like I think I'm with you on that, Britt. I think on FanDuel you need to be getting him in. Sure.
Him or Nacua on FanDuel, I think are probably the two best plays of the week.
Agreed.
All right, TJ, tight end. Let's start with Schoonmaker, 2,500. You can go to his teammate too, 20 if you want tight end leverage. Most weeks, and they were talking about this on the earlier shows, right? If we had a 4,000 quarterback who we wanted to play and a $2,500 tight end that we wanted to play, we would be salivating to just jam these guys in at 30, 40, 50%. But the pricing isn't that tough this week. We don't have like prime CMC at 10,000. We don't have Jamar Chase. We don't have the high-end wide receivers in just very obvious blow-up spots today. So what do you like about Schoonmaker? Are you expecting him? I think last week is probably he could have got a touchdown, but that's probably about his ceiling. Are there ways to failure for him as a $2,500 tight end? Why do you like him so much? I understand from your lineup construction, right? You're getting the high-priced wide receivers, which is a different lineup, and you have to make sacrifices. That's the quarterback and the tight end for you.
Yeah, and so I think the biggest way he fails is if Span Ford ends up getting in there and stealing some snaps, steals a touchdown or something. And so I'm getting into a little bit of Span Ford as well, just like two of my highest price lineups that have Schoonmaker. I just made the same lineup and put Span Ford in there. But if you give a refresh to SimLabs, you'll see that Schoonmaker's ownership has even gone down. He's only projecting for about 6.6% ownership now. Brock Bowers is looking like he has some insane leverage at this position. He's the second highest projected optimal rate guy, and he is not projecting for nearly as high of ownership as Kelsey. I think he is so far a better play than Kelsey. I would way rather just find the $500, whether I'm doing it through defense, one of my receivers, etc., to get Kelsey. To get Bowers, because I think he's a way better play than Kelsey if you're spending up. I would even rather play Trey McBride than Kelsey in this spot. I think the other guys brought up an interesting point of taking a 1% own shot on Noah Gray, but I'm off Kelsey today. I have him on one Mahomes team. That's it. I think Ertz is fine. I think Laporta is interesting. Hawkinson's interesting. I have Otton on one Baker Mayfield team, and I really like Jonnu Smith, but Schoonmaker is going to be the main guy for me today. I have him in probably 3/4 of my lineups.
All right. What about you, Will? For cash, I think you're looking at least on DraftKings, probably a Brock Bowers, a Travis Kelsey, or a Schoonmaker. You're basically min or maxing TJ like Bowers. If Bowers gets a touchdown today, like you're going to need Brock Bowers because I expect him to have a pretty nice game. I mean, he's getting 20 points without touchdowns. Imagine if he gets one. And why are you less on Kelsey? To me, it's sort of like the Chiefs could do the good teams don't show their hand on what they want to do when they're winning, they're not really playing an actual game plan. And they do it to mess up the numbers of teams that look at stats and things like that. That's why we saw the Lions go absolutely nuclear in the pass, because I think they're a smart organization. So they're just like, yeah, we're just going to pass all game to mess up our numbers for what we actually might want to do in a close game come the playoffs or something like that. And I think the Chiefs might do that sort of thing too. Is this why, TJ, maybe they don't let Travis Kelce run wild? This is a Travis Kelce. Hey, you have the week off. It's Noah Gray. Is maybe this what I'm hearing from you as a reason of why you might want to fade Travis Kelce?
I just don't think they need him. I think the Panthers are probably going to score 6 points in this game. And so I don't think
TJ, you're wrong.
You forgot who you're talking to in this show, TJ.
I'm just telling you that's not happening this week.
I don't think Travis Kelce is going to be needed against them. I think it's going to be a Kareem Hunt day, and I'm off Kelce entirely. I would way rather play the other two guys beside him, Bowers or McBride. I think they got higher ceilings. I think they got higher floors.
All right, Will, what are you doing? Give me your take on that game in under 30 seconds, and then let me know what you're doing at tight end.
Love Kareem Hunt, love Kelce, love the Chiefs. I think Carolina puts up enough points to make the Chiefs keep playing football. So in no way was I thinking Carolina's going to win this game, but I think we've turned a corner here. We're getting Adam Thielen back, which is going to help us. I'm just telling you, Chiefs going to have to play today.
All right, I sort of agree. I think with Chief on that one. I don't have a bet on that game. But I don't think I would bet it. But maybe not as big of a spread as you.
Chiefs win the game, no doubt.
I
I don't think it's like 28-0 third quarter.
All right. What about tight end?
I think it'll probably be like 24-9 kind of thing.
I got a Jatavian Sanders plus 700 touchdown.
I think it'll be slow. I think it'll be slow. I think Kareem Hunt will have 125 and 2 touchdowns, and
I hope he does.
All right, Chief, tight end. We only got a couple minutes here before lock.
I think you're going cheap with Schoolmaker. Me personally, I do have Travis Kelce for what it's worth. I think this is a good spot for him. I mean, he could catch 2 touchdowns, but Kareem Hunt can still run 2 in. I think the Chiefs have a day here. I think Carolina pushes them just enough. So I value Kelce highly today in this spot.
All right, I'm going to see if I can get in just a couple of questions. I see whoever's banning people on the YouTube. Is that you, TJ? You are a very busy man in there today. Let's see. Someone wants to know rain in Seattle. It's going to rain all day. No wind. Sure, maybe you can knock a completion or 2 down, but I'm not overly too concerned with just rain. There's a pretty reasonable history of rain having little to no effect on a game. It's when you get the wind mixed in with it that you want to avoid. Achane or Mixon on FanDuel. I've gone Mixon personally over Achane. I'm playing Achane on DraftKings. Does anyone have a particular take between those two today? I think Mixon is personally getting slept on. I mean, his over-under rush prop attempts is like it's either 20.5 or 21.5, and the dude just goes absolutely nuclear every time he plays a full game. I don't know why you could not want to play Joe Mixon today.
Yeah, for a cash setting, I would go Mixon as well if they're the same price on FanDuel.
Yeah, I think it's 200 over there on DraftKings. I just couldn't get to it, so Achane, where it's full PPR, a little bit more valuable as well. So on FanDuel, yeah, I'm personally doing Mixon over Achane. Favorite defense, 3K or less, DraftKings cash. I think that's generally the Bears today or the Packers at 2,800. If you're going dumpster diving, you can play the Giants at 2,400 as well. Does anyone have a favorite of those three or anybody else?
Packers are my favorite when I'm not playing Allen, and nobody else is doing it, but I'm high on both the Cardinals and Seahawks.
All right. Maybe with the rain, a sloppy pass or two get through here. I could certainly understand that. Abdullah, anyone just, some weeks we would want to play a cheap starting running back. This is not the one. It's not a week for me to do that. I know you have like one TJ, but no strong take on Abdullah today.
Yeah, I'd rather not get there, but I'm just playing him in one lineup just in case.
All right. Favorite large field defense in a tournament? Will, I'll get you in here.
Minnesota.
Oh yeah, that does makes a pretty good sense to me. Let's see if I have anything. I don't see anything in the live stream chat. If you guys have any more questions, get them in on YouTube. We're just about a minute to lock. Again, if you're looking for a quick bet, I like the Lions Texans 6-point teaser on DraftKings. Again, if you're playing teasers, I dabble in those quite a bit. DraftKings is the only book that gives you actual like fair odds, and then everyone else juices the crap out of it. So make sure if you're playing teasers to get over there on DraftKings for that. Will, any real thoughts? You got maybe a late game prop someone could get in here if they're looking to get a bet in or pay on any of the pick'em sites?
Give me a second. Let me see. I know I have some, Brit. So if you can still get it, I did take Sutton more than 7.5 targets on the pick'em sites. I did take James Conner more than 16.5 rushing attempts on the pick'em sites. I have let's see. I'm trying to look and see if I got anything else. I took Bo Nix more than 31.5 passing attempts. If you can still get that, if it's still up, I've got that. So those are some of the later things, Britt, that I've got in. I know for sure I've got those, just kind of looking through the game.
Everything late for me has moved so much. The Chargers, so I did bet the Chargers early in the week. The lines moved in my favor, but I don't want to tout them until I know if McConkey's playing again, because that would be a big hit to the passing game here. Everything on scores and odds has moved too much for me to really recommend it for the late game. So I guess that's going to be it for today. I hope you guys watch all the shows. Again, click the like on your way out. We would greatly appreciate it. Go check out your RotoGrinders Premium if you want that. The combo, again, if you like the SimLabs, if you liked all the stuff that we were showing you, there is a sale on that. You can get it for $79.99. TJ, I'm sure you've had a long morning. Are you ready to get out of here, buddy?
Yeah, let's go sweat some football. Good luck to everybody. Go happy Brandon Allen and Tommy DeVito Day. And catch us back for Sunday Night Football, because Chief and I will be back before the Sunday Night Football slate breaking down Eagles and Rams. So make sure you tune in for that one as well.
All right, Will, congrats on the championship. Big props to you on that one. And good luck, everyone out there in the games. Go watch, enjoy, however you do football Sunday. For Will and TJ, I'm Britt. Thanks for watching, and we out.